days a week, 6 days a week?
Yeah, I submitted that in my business plan. This would be open 6 days a week, Monday to Saturday.
Okay, the pre-existing eye doctor used to rope off the parking lot. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Last chance. Okay. Thanks, Dan, and thanks, Dr. Brown. I'm gonna shut your phone off now.
Okay, if I could just, I think this is, if I mind if I just ask one question?
Sure.
I guess I'm basically looking to see if this is zoned for such veterinary use, and I'm assuming this process is going to be helping with that. I think before I get to some of the proposed architectural designs, things like that, from where I'm coming from, the building price is something that's on my mind, and I'm just trying to wonder if this building is will be potentially zoned for veterinary use. Because if it isn't, or you see any potential red flags with the building itself, and I would love to know earlier than later, just before I get into agreements with the seller building and going forward. So that's kind of why I'm here. I understand going through the process of the actual hospital itself, but I am trying to get an understanding if the building itself would be approved. That's all.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So technically the zoning district is the C1, down central commercial district. It does allow this use on the properties, but it has to just be a conditional use. So all that means is that as part of the, say we're going to go forward with the project, you would have to just meet all that were in the memo. So that's the same thing with the noise abatement. That's the same thing about the, the no overnight storing of animals. They mentioned you being licensed, which obviously we know you are, but things of that nature. So it's just, that's really in terms of the zoning compliance. Obviously in terms of, I guess, the board could always provide recommendations if the project site is suitable for it in their opinion. But that's the zoning standpoint from it. So it's not, what's it called? There wouldn't be a zoning change or anything. Something that you could do.
But you'd have to go through the whole site plan process.
Yes, you would have to go through the formal process.
Yeah. So you would need an architect or some sort of professional to draw that out, go through the entire process. I mean, it probably would take, it just depends. But I don't see any major hurdles.
Okay. Okay, well, I thank you so much for your time and feedback.
Well,
Okay,
thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Next item on the agenda is 114 Bleecker Street. It's to replace an existing retaining wall with block walls in a residential district. Then you get a mic.
I don't think that's a battery.
So I'll share. Okay. Well, you have the staff report, actually, it's the old staff report, isn't it?
There should be an updated, do you have a copy? Yes, it reads the new stuff.
Amended. Right below it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
same verbiage.
You just bring us up to date with all the green.
Yeah, that was the goal. So yeah, so this just for a brief way of background, right? This is an application to construct a multi-tier retaining wall on the south side of this property. This was last reviewed by the planning board back on January 9th of 2025, so earlier this part of the year. And of course, since Quebec, we've seen revised materials to bring back before the board tonight. So the staff report itself is it's kind of brief. It kind of goes over a couple of updates and clarifications that were requested during the last meeting. Also got some next steps about going forward. Most important of all of that would be secret. This was something that is considered type 1 action under secret, pursuant to the village's code about retaining walls over 6 feet on a single slope. The full environmental assessment form was prepared and reviewed during the previous meeting. I went back in, we reviewed it again. We found it to be prepared in acceptable format. Technically, the board didn't declare its intent for the agency status yet. So that's something we are at least recommending maybe possible tonight to intent for the agency status and initiate the coordinated review. The only major agencies we noted at this time were just the ZBA because of potential variances that are required in the Conservation Advisory Council. But of course, there might be others on top of that.
Yeah, before we do that, have you had a chance to look at this?
Yes, yeah, we've gone through the comment letter. There was nothing that was particularly troubling for any of us in there. I think the only question would be, we'll circle back with staff and see exactly where they're looking for the setbacks that they need to be able to do referral to the zoning board. We'll have that conversation with them offline. Other than that, we're perfectly comfortable with the contents of the report and are looking to move forward to zoning board, so that way we can get this approved and get construction underway. We recognize that it's an incredibly tight site, and that's not going to be the easiest of builds, but it is replacing existing rail ties. I know that's kind of the theme of the board lately. You've been seeing a lot of the rail ties that were all installed at the same time here in the village are kind of starting to degrade kind of around the same time. So we are going to be replacing a rail tie with block. It's going to be, again, a trickier install, but it's to maintain the existing conditions on the site. There was one comment requesting the clearing on the site. Again, this is a postage stamp size lot. Basically, if it's green on the lot to be able to do the construction, it will be removed, but we did provide a revegetation plan and a replanting plan to be able to bring some greenery back. The property owner certainly doesn't want their property to be barren. Once they have a retaining wall, they're looking to green it back up. But again, it's going to be a difficult build, and it's going to be using pretty much the entirety of the backyard in order to get that done.
I just had two. So, what is it? Just setbacks that the variances you need from?
That's my understanding.
Okay. And then I think I can't remember if we resolved about the drainage from the wall itself is being contained on the property.
So the drainage is minimal when it comes to just rainwater seeping through the wall itself.
For
It's not a substantial
sprinklers.
amount that would,
Yeah.
it's just to reduce the hydrostatic pressure behind the wall. So
Okay.
really, the leaching pool there is really to capture the topside drainage as well as.
Okay.
Remember, just a year ago, we talked about the detached garage and the construction of retaining walls on that side. You know, the impact of that construction on the existing structure. Do you have any further information on that?
So it's planned right. The adjacent property is higher, so we're not going to be excavating on the right side of the garage. On the back end, I drew a line in there that shows the extent of the geogrid, which is about 7 feet off of the outermost point of the wall. So at its tightest point, you probably have 3.5 feet from the corner of the garage to the extent of the geogrid, and that's about 7 feet down. So, in my opinion, the foundation should be fine. However, it is a means and method thing when it comes to that, so I feel like it would be the contractor's responsibility during construction to maintain the structure. However, I don't feel that the extent of the geogrid poses a risk to the existing foundation.
Just on your, that just basically it's out there, small people. This property to temporary easement adjacent properties.
Expected to be on to be contained entirely on the property. The goal is, of course, to completely stay on top of the property, but if we have to enter into a construction easement as we get further into permit, we're certainly open to do that. It covers everybody. So, but at this time, the contractor believes they can do the entirety of the work while remaining on the
Okay,
property. But
Chris, yeah.
If that changes, we recognize that something will have to be put in.
Okay. All right, you have any other comments or anything you want to point out that's in the memo that we haven't talked about?
I mean, actually, covered it mostly, pretty much what we had. I mean, yeah, the biggest things was just right about the setbacks of the drawing, which we'll really discuss that.
We'll take that off.
Yeah,
We
of
don't-
course.
We don't have to circle things with all these people behind.
No, I know. Basically, in terms of the engineering details and stuff, so we talked about, they did provide us with updated contours and elevations for existing proposed. We did get the new drainage area calculations for it, which appear to maintain village's standards, and to sufficiently designed, as the applicants indicated already. The question was, again, if, because this was something that during the last two reviews, reviewed by formal engineering, if it's something the board wants to consider as part of this, if they want to get engineering to put it on one more time, as part of the review. But I mean, staff was in the position, I think it's at this, just because of the scale of the walls and what's there.
Our engineers, like we
So the village,
hire,
yeah, so
Right.
the way this works is technically, there's the village code, and I maybe, let me see if we can pull up the specific section. We can bring an engineer on board, but technically the expense does go to the applicant. And
Oh.
that's something that, we do have a new engineering team working with us. That's a process that's gonna be kind of starting to get more, at least more implemented as we go forward, but that's what it would be if we did.
right, but a PE prepared this,
Right, that's what I was.
so.
Of course, that's,
And he stamped it, so if
Right.
he's
Yeah,
professional, he's
No,
on the
it's
line.
just an odd, I know, I'm just,
Yeah,
it's
no,
in
I'm
the
just
code,
curious.
so.
I mean, this is,
Um,
I don't wanna say standard construction, but it's pretty standard,
Yeah.
you know, materials and methods. So I agree with Laura, I think the, you know, the fact that you have a PE stamping, putting his license on the line and, you know, not to take away, but these aren't major, you know, walls. I think this is fine.
Yeah.
I mean, this way we can, but the sooner we can get this, the sooner the homeowner can make progress.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree, I don't think we need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, unless somebody else feels that they need.
All right.
Okay with me?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is, I guess, if you guys want to declare the intent for lead agency, and then you could also, at the same time, do ZBA in advance. We probably wouldn't do the referral until technically after the whole secret process is done, but they will be coordinated with as part of secret. But that would be the kind of the next steps for this, so we can kind of get them
Okay.
towards.
Okay, can I get a motion to have the planning board declared lead agency?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thanks so much. Have a
you're
good one.
welcome, thank you.
Vote on the, ZBA.
Yeah, you can just, it'll be
Referral.
something we can prepare, so.
So we'll just go concurrent.
Exactly. Yeah, it's gonna.
Okay.
Sorry, no.
Can we put cars in there in and out? Because I didn't see a driveway on the plan. I mean, it could be a non-functional storage garage, but they don't.
Okay, next up is 75 North Country Road, Mather Hospital. It's the exterior, existing exterior, interior courtyard. Just interior. Okay. Good evening.
Chairman, members of the board. Is that on?
Like the
There
one-
we go, okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Anthony Guardino, law firm of Farrell Fritz, representing Northwell Health and Mather Hospital. Good e- So we received earlier today the staff report, and quite pleased with it. We don't really have any issues. Obviously, we will comply with everything that's, they're asking for us to do here. I don't think there's much left to do,
Mhm.
other than there might be some, confirmations that the board is looking for with regard to some of the things that some of the representations that we've made. We do have a comment or a question, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah,
good.
so-
Thank you.
no, I know, it's hard to explain with so I guess, yeah, right, so I guess we can start with the question.
No, go ahead.
Want to jump right in? Yeah, so they did submit, right, last time at the last meeting, kind of left off, there was only a few main things left. The biggest thing had to do with the lighting plan, that's with the drainage plan, regulations. They made some additional comments about construction staging areas, where it's, how this was all going to function. So for the lighting itself, we did get a revised lighting plan, and it shows the isofluid candles throughout it, the different light measurements from the interior. You kind of see the plan behind you. And the question was about the kind of the range of these standards, right? The plan's very typical. It shows the highest lumens by the light fixtures and kind of goes out to get closer to the exterior. The question was more so about the basically the levels along the interior of the glass, and just making sure if there's any potential concern at all about disturbance to the users of the site from the inside. We didn't think it was very major. We didn't think it was something that was a really big, it was designed poorly or designed in an inefficient way. It was all dark sky compliant. It was all fully shielded. It all met what typically would be the standards for and best management practices for lighting. But that's something we just wanted to bring before the board, just to make sure everything here is acceptable and.
I think they also stated that after a certain hour, the lights would either be lowered or turned off, if I am not mistaken.
If that was a representation made at the last meeting, that's the case. Nothing has changed.
And dark sky compliant and
Yes.
migrating bird
Yes.
awareness.
Okay, yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Okay, and you checked we have drainage calculations now, and they show above and beyond. I mean,
Yes,
required
yeah, they were
drainage.
we found them to be very, compliant with the standards and above typical requirements. So, and we, at least staff-wise, we had no real major concerns with them. They also submitted the construction staging area plans, showing the location of it, kind of how they maintain their operations, and it seemed pretty consistent. It seemed pretty fair from our understanding of it. Yeah.
Are there so are you using the drainage from the original site plan, or is there more drainage?
There's new now.
There's more, okay.
Yeah, we have.
Tom Rodler here from,
Drainage that we dig and calculate.
Yeah, you're gonna need a mic.
yeah,
I'm sorry, why don't you?
Keep forgetting that.
The drainage that we figured it's on the plan is for all our new construction and the artificial turf area. As mentioned before, we exceeded the amount because we're very conscious of the interior courtyard we maintain, that we wanted to be able to control all the drainage, in the site. We used a chambered system, which are located underneath the two sections of the artificial turf. And we're very fortunate the soil, I know I mentioned in the last meeting, is sand, a bank run. So we were able to fully contain that. We did consult with an engineer. He checked everything on the plans and reviewed everything. So we're more than adequate, and we're above what the requirements are to be able to do that.
All right, any other questions, comments? No. I think we're in the position to take a vote on approving the site plan.
Yeah, so one last step for this is technically matched with the secret. Last time we mentioned it was an unlisted action, and they submitted the full environmental assessment form for the review. Short environmental assessment form, which they can do for unlisted actions. And again, the board technically is the only lead agency, didn't have to do a coordinated review of this. Basically, the last step of this is to accepting the part 2 and part 3 for the short environmental assessment form. I provided you all with copies of it in the report. And staff didn't identify any major, any moderate to large impacts for any of the development on the site. Basically, though, we were informed by SCOVA we have to sign it at the meeting, so it's something that we procedurally have to do if the board feels all the information is adequate before the approval.
Okay.
Need the microphone, Jim.
Oh, sorry. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
And then they can move to.
Thank you.
Oh, okay,
Sorry, yeah, making a determination on significance and then,
okay.
thank you.
So do we need to vote on the determination of significance? It's an unlisted action, right?
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, it's fully.
it's an unlisted action. Any comments on the, there's no, I mean, small or no impact, consistent. Okay, so you were involved in preparation of this and the review, so we need a motion on this then, to accept the CEF?
I think it's
Probably
accepting
not.
first, then it's the,
Declaring that an unlisted action.
yeah, declaring.
All right, can I get a motion to declare this project as an unlisted action under SECR?
I'll motion.
Second?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And actually, that covers this form, so then we just need one to get final approval to the site plan. Correct? Okay. Got a motion to grant final approval to the revised site plan, amended site plan.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Can sign this now, right?
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
You need to sign also, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Since you prepared it, I'm not gonna.
Anything over acre. So any disturbance, it's, yeah, greater than acres.
Okay, ready? Next up on the agenda, 242 East Main Street, which is the prior Toast Restaurant, vacant storefront right now. There's a proposed restaurant and bar. We're going to discuss the new application and begin the site plan review process. Good evening.
is this here?
It's a great question. And
Because it's not a change of use.
yes.
Okay, or am I wrong?
No, it's okay. So
Okay.
there's something we're actually going to look to fix too, and I'll Josephine went, but we'll back on it too. So right now, restaurants are considered conditional uses in the C1 district.
Mhm.
So the only change, basically, the way the site plan code reads is that any alteration, reconstruction, renovation, extension, it's very inclusive of the code. I can probably pull it up. It's 25010. Technically has to go back before the board for site plan. And
Full site plan, because they're gonna have to go through a whole public hearing,
yeah.
and we're going restaurant to restaurant. Okay. I think we should
Unfortunately,
amend
the way the
that.
code currently reads, it's only permitted use to permitted use where you don't require a site plan in the C1 as long as there's no exterior modifications to facade or
Okay.
expansions that require additional parking. So that's how the code currently reads. One of the ideas we've been discussing internally is making restaurants so they're just permitted and it's just unfortunate that we haven't, this is coming up now and something we were actively
Yeah.
discussing. Yeah, so I hate to do that, but
Okay.
it's just how the
Thank
code
you for-
currently reads. We're kind
Thank
of,
you for clarifying.
yeah. I'm sorry, I can't quote the code's a very long,
Right.
inclusive list.
Okay.
Good one to
Okay.
put on your list.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely one we the administration too, wants to prioritize now because, we don't want to discourage anyone,
Yeah.
Very good.
Sorry, I just had to.
Yeah.
No, it's
That
okay. It's
first.
okay.
So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My name's Amanda Danielson. I'm the AKD of AKD Holdings Corp. The DBA is the Boutique at Hoptron. Yep, so a little explanation as to what this is. We used to have a place in the village of Patchogue. It was a craft beer bar. And we would like to sort of reimagine that. I'm from Miller Place, so Port Jeff was always my town. I was happy that Patchogue adopted me, but I'm happy to be back in my own location. And one of my favorite books as a kid was like Choose Your Own Adventure books. And that's sort of what this is like encompassing. It's choose your own adventure with different flights of food, different flights of beer, just sort of like a different experience. There's so many great places in town. We're not looking to do a pasta place or anything like that. We're looking to sort of give sort of like I said, like a choose your own adventure as to what, you'll do different flights of food, different flights of alcohol that sort of match up with everything. We want it to be like very light, well lit. We don't stay open late. We're not a shop place. We're not a wing place, nothing like that. And that's sort of like the overall concept that we're looking to do.
Okay. So you're not open in Patchogue anymore?
No, we sold in 2019, actually right before COVID.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, it's Daisy's now.
okay.
Yeah, and that you actually, I think, answered my question, but just to really clarify,
Mhm.
the Patchogue location was much more of a beer
Yes.
bar-ish.
Yep. So
Whereas I really get the impression that it's almost like you're doing a boutique restaurant
that's exactly.
bar.
Yep.
It's not a bar.
Yep.
Restaurant with pairing with beer.
Yep. And different
whole
cocktails and different
experience.
wines.
Okay.
What a lot of people said back in the day was we were like the Starbucks of beer, which was, like one of those like backhanded
good?
compliments. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly. But I think what they meant was that we were clean, we were, like friendly, we were giving people the experience. But this go around, I'm definitely more interested in like the culinary aspect of it. And honestly, craft beer isn't where it used to be. It's just not a business plan that can make it. So if you don't have something different, mocktails, like a different kind of lifestyle, different people, it's just not going to work. And so that's why we sort of, changed the concept of what we did before, but still keeping that fact of, we had tons of families, we had tons of, professionals. Like I said, we were never open late. We never had any fights. So that same kind of like professionalism, which is funny to say with an alcohol establishment, but you can still have fun and still be respectable. And I think that that's what we're trying to bring here.
So are you doing beer and wine, or are you going to get your full liquor
So
license?
we're looking to get the full license. I know
Okay.
Revival had the full license.
Okay.
So we're looking to do that. But again,
no shots, no nothing like that. It would be cocktails that pretty much kind of match with, like, one of the things we wanted to do is deviled eggs. And so the deviled eggs would be like Bloody Mary deviled egg, and we'd have a little cocktail that sort of pairs with that. So you get that sort of like
Okay.
flavor profile.
Okay, and then, so the idea is people coming off the street, you're coming there to eat.
Right. Yep. So there's
It's
definitely,
not-
yeah, the food is the number
Okay.
one.
Okay.
And the cocktails and the alcohol are, to help that.
Adjacent, yeah.
But again, we're also doing mocktails. One of the things, again, is that not everyone drinks and they shouldn't. So we want to have a place where, low alcohol things, no alcohol things, so that you can have sort of the same experience that you do. And you don't feel weird about, like if you're drinking and you're not drinking, it doesn't make you look bad, you can still have the same great experience of just all different flavors without needing to have alcohol in it.
Okay.
So the membership structure
Yep.
is interesting. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So what we are, what we want, one of the things that we had before was that people had like a sense of ownership. When they would come in, they would be like, oh, like Hoptron almost made them feel like family. One of the things that I wanted was, how do you sort of do that in sort of in like a economic way, so that when people walk in, they have a card, so that their card gets rung up. They never have to actually, like pay for anything. The tab pretty much exists as your membership. And so when you walk in, like you can just, we have this POS system that works with golf clubs. And so you'll have a card or an app, and so they just run it on the app, and then that way if you have 6 drinks per, like the lowest is 6 drinks a month free, so you'll be able to check your app and see how many you have left. But it just is sort of that cool thing where it's like you walk in and it's almost as if everyone knows you. It's like a house tab without a house tab. So that's sort of that thing. And then what we want to do is link that with different events, so that you can sort of, like based on Thursdays, we want to do different food events. One of the things that we would want to have is like, we have like we want to call it a micro gallery. So essentially, instead of increasing the occupancy, we're having this room that we have a rotating art. So every month it'll be a different artist. And so the reception would be something that's members only. So you'll be able to go, if you're a member, to kind of experience that. And it's kind of big in the city. It's funny that it's not really out here yet. You see a couple places like Artemis does it, but that's a little bit more speakeasy. We wanted it so that you had this feeling of like inclusivity. And it's just kind of cool to walk in somewhere and just sort of show your, so that's really that membership.
Is it exclusive to that, or?
No, so it's member focused. It's not
Okay.
members only.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the hope is that you walk in and you have such a good time that you want to become a member.
Sure.
So that's why being open to the public actually only worked for our benefit.
Mhm.
That answered my question also. I was wondering if you must be a member in order to.
Nope. Yeah.
Okay.
7-day, 6-day a week?
So we would be closed on Mondays.
Okay.
Yeah, I need one day off.
But it's really not.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I admire the optimism.
Yes, yeah. Actually, that would be the day where I would be like picking up different beers from locations. But yeah, closed to the public. Monday seems like a good day. We were closed Monday last time too.
And what are the hours?
So it would be, usually during the week, it would be about 4 o'clock to 9.
Okay.
And then, we would be open on weekends. I want to do Sunday like an early brunch, like 11 o'clock, but we would be closed at 8. And then we'd be closed at 11 on Friday and Saturday. So,
Okay.
I mean, the thing is, and not to say that we wouldn't have young people in, but I'm the kind of person that likes to eat at 5:30, and I like to go to sleep by, I mean, it'll be a little bit different, but sort of our clientele is not going to be drinking at 2 o'clock. So that's why it's nice to be able to be closed a little bit early.
Okay.
Have
It sounds like a perfect fit, really.
Yeah, we hope so.
Hotel. Yeah.
You all are members.
Have you seen the staff report dated today?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we reviewed this. I'm Tyler Fox. I'm the architect, and I'm a
Okay.
partner at JM2. We reviewed the staff report. We really had no comments. We'll review and submit the short environmental, even though it is a type 2 secra. We'll take care of all the comments.
Okay.
It's all one level, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so port side is down, which would be our basement, and then there's apartments upstairs. I think the only thing that was really requested was, I'm gonna be able to access, I'll get a copy of that easement.
Yes,
Just so
yeah.
that you, luckily in my prior life, I owned a title company. So,
Yeah.
so I was easement, I
Okay.
was like, oh, I got that. And then we'll figure out I know that the grease trap is actually done every month, so we'll just be able to get that, that grease information.
Any other
So
questions?
could they hypothetically be on the December?
Well, yeah, so that was our hopefully our goal. We were I mean there's obviously right. I think they addressed a lot of our comments too.
Yeah.
They did meet all the conditional use standards because this is conditional use. We didn't see any real concern. The one thing we wanted to briefly mention was that so the most recent site plan approval was technically for Toast. I don't believe we ever had one for Revival by Toast, was never fully site plan. So the original Toast only was approved for 56 seats on the site. Right now they have 65 proposed. They also have a Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval for 65 seats. The only reason we brought this up is that it really has to do with kind of parking and how it's calculated with restaurants. The current parking calculation is based on a couple of things, including the square footage of the site, also the linear feet of bar space and seats.
Right.
So it's very complex, and that's something we're also looking to work on in the code. But so it technically, right, with additional seats, it technically triggers a parking requirement. The biggest thing that us as staff, as we're looking at it, we don't, given the characteristics of East Main Street, given that there was a previous restaurant there that was approved without parking on site, and there's also port side directly below it without parking on site, we didn't think necessarily that pile up or any kind of variance would be required. It's something that we thought could be grandfathered in because you're not changing the use.
Yeah, and I'm really getting the impression people aren't going to be going and sitting at the bar and just ordering a drink.
Yeah.
It's not, it happens to look like a bar, but I think
Yeah.
the
I mean, we don't
nomenclature
even
Sorry,
wouldn't be.
I didn't mean to say if I was saying it.
No,
bar.
I just
okay.
meant
I meant restaurant.
perhaps
yeah.
because the use, I don't know how this works because it sounds like the conditional use is only as long as this business is open. So I don't think it would affect future businesses. What I'm saying is perhaps we don't calculate parking by linear foot of bar because it's not being, the use is not being increased, right? It's not a bar. It's happens to look like a bar, but it's just seating.
High top seats.
Throwing that out there.
Yeah.
That would be what I would get
I think
behind and
the-
be fine.
I mean, I don't
Okay.
want to argue for us to have less occupancy, but I think that the seating as given is actually less than the 65.
On the
because-
plan, you're saying.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? So that wasn't actually, that wasn't actually something that, again, it's not that I'm saying I want 56 instead of 65, but I don't think that
Well,
that was part of,
Yeah,
you
because
know.
we're just talking about the parking that
Right.
goes along
Exactly.
with,
Yeah.
and that the idea of you having a bar
Right.
increases the parking requirements.
course.
But my argument is, since it's not technically a bar,
Right.
I will say
throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will say the village's definitions, they consider its bar, nightclub, or something else is all considered in the same definition. And it describes being open late. It describes being, what's it called, cover fees to get in.
Right.
I know this is
So
not
this is
something at
not-
all they're doing. I mean, I don't think,
So
we've
if-
talked about it internally, and I don't think we were opposed to any, requiring any, opposed to not, sorry, I don't know the best way to
Just
phrase
staying
it.
on additional parking,
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't.
or meeting additional parking requirements.
Yeah, and I don't see I'm just hoping if we take out that equation, because I would hate to have them have to go through pilot for something that's already, because
Yeah.
that's just an additional cost.
Yeah.
My 2 cents.
No, that sounds good.
you know,
No, I like your idea of not using the bar because of the nature of it.
Yeah, like we're not
So-
gonna have TVs, so there'll be a TV.
Mhm.
We had one before, but it actually shows like different things. It's like a computer program essentially. So there's not gonna be like, I mean, I love the Mets, but I don't need to watch them because they're atrocious. So we don't have that. You won't want to sit at the bar and watch, whatever. So that's another thing is that, like that's not really what you'll want to do is grab your drink. We're going to give you like a little number and then the person will bring the food out to you where you are. And so that's why the bar is a bar, but it's not necessarily like a seating place where you want to hang out.
But could somebody eat their meal there?
Yes.
And
Oh, yep.
can somebody go in and just have a drink?
Yep, of course, yep.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm throwing it out.
Other comments, questions?
Do we have next steps?
Yeah, so I mean, next
They know.
steps, I mean, as long as really parking was, if there's any, if you guys feel, there's no additional need for anything else to provide on parking, I mean, the biggest recommendation, going forward is we did feel it was ready enough for, going forward for the conditional use hearing. Unfortunately, that's the step. Right, there's some minor details, which I know, we asked for clarifications on about lighting and stuff like that. I think it's relatively small enough where
I
either,
don't think that we're changing any of the exterior.
yeah,
We're
that's,
keeping everything as it is, because it's nice, so,
I saw some door details in the plans. Are you changing the door?
no.
Oh, okay.
Internal. Yeah, there's
Oh,
an
those are
internal.
internal doors.
Yeah, so they actually, I should
My
have
bad.
mentioned that before. There's a
Sorry.
bit of an expansion of the
It was
kitchen,
quick.
and there's a few walls that are gonna close off, right? That
Yep.
are gonna.
so there was a half wall, so there was an area where they had their, I guess, their prep area. So it was a little, like, kind of wonky room that had, countertops, and I guess that's where they would, like, prep things during toast. And so what we wanted was to kind of there was a half wall, and then to make a door so that the part that was by the kitchen was just storage, and then the part that was the front where we would have the little gallery area. So that's not increasing any occupancy because there's not going to be seats there. And then for us, it creates a little storage because there's not that much storage. And so, but we're not actually increasing the kitchen area. So the kitchen area, which is on the top right, it stays exactly as it is. And the top left is all the dishwashing. That stays exactly where it is. It's just the area, you mind if I get up? So it's this area where there was already a half wall there. Right here, sorry, because that's the bathroom. So there's a half wall, and so we wanted to put the door here. This would be storage, and then this would be that little gallery thing. But the kitchen itself, we're leaving all of that the same.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to get up.
Okay. Okay, so we can schedule,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe as long
public
as we have
hearing.
everything by, is it next week's the submission deadline for?
Yeah, we can get it on for December 11th public hearing if the board,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Have it tomorrow.
okay, good. All right.
Very good.
We
Thank
don't
you.
need-
Good night.
We don't need to do a lead agency thing or anything on this one?
No, so this was
Was
a
it-
type 2 action.
Type 2.
Yeah, so the only thing we did ask for the short amount of assessment form just for record purposes, but
Mhm.
technically no further environmental is required.
Okay.
Understand.
All right, thank you.
Good night.
You too.
Hold the court. You like that?
Okay, back to Boulder.
That's fun. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Next item, 85 Boulder Court. We've had this before.
There's no staff report for this one. But I said there's no staff
Oh,
report for
okay.
this one, but.
Hi. Okay, so can you summarize where we are right now? We have a
Yeah, so
new
I-
submission?
I know, so
Can-
yeah, there's no formal staff report.
Oh. excuse me, Dan, can I just have the names of who's present here?
Oh, yeah.
James Christian from R&M Engineering.
John Bilodeau, owner.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being here too. So yeah, we've been meeting a lot with actually with these guys here about the project scope. During the last conversation, right, there was a lot of questions about the kind of the roadway construction, about clearing, about drainage, kind of about a lot of details about like, how it's to function and some clarifications that we needed to kind of get this, moving forward. So the applicants have done a lot of work. We've they've been, thankfully very, respectful and very, responsive to the requests of the board. There have been some revisions to the plans and, which I think are important to discuss tonight. I think if we could pull up the most recent, site plan, kind of start going into some of the details here. So I think the biggest thing is most important to focus on maybe Boulder Court itself, right? Last time we talked about how this is a shared access roadway, in quotes. Shared access roadway, right, with 7 parcels have access to it. There was questions of whether or not it would be considered a roadway or driveway, how it would be kind of defined, but then also about the drainage and the materials and kind of what's going to be constructed here. So I think we've worked with the Department of State, we've worked with the fire marshals, we've worked with the applicants here, and building staff. And I think we've come to the conclusion this is something that, I guess we'll start with, defining it first, right? There's something in the fire code, it calls it emergency access driveway. And there are certain standards in that, and I actually gave you guys a copy of the, for later, but the Department of State's interpretation, some of those standards. Basically, when we reviewed this, we felt it met all of those standards, and building staff felt met those standards, which means it could technically only have a minimum width of 12 feet. They're providing us with 18 feet, as was the originally approved version of it from the 2015 subdivision that's created as part of. I think us as staff didn't have an issue with that. The way it was currently designed, and found it to be pretty consistent with what the Department of State recommended. The essentially the one caveat to that was that if it was going to be considered a fire apparatus road, they had to provide, it had to serve 3 to 4 or more parcels. The thing is, all the adjoining parcels have designated fire roads, and in terms of fire purposes, only this one home is being serviced. So that's where we think we can technically fall into the definition of emergency vehicle driveway, and kind of proceed the way it is at the moment.
The other properties are serviced out on
Yeah,
West
either on
Broadway?
West Broadway or on Brook.
Or on Brook.
Or on Owasco. I'm saying that right, Owasco? Yeah. So that's how they're kind of being serviced by. So that's where we kind of came to the conclusion. But again, some of the board, just in case, wants to discuss tonight. In terms of the drainage we talked about. So originally they were wanting to tie into Brook Road's infrastructure, and I think that was also part of the 2015 subdivision. We coordinated with DPW. In accordance with the village code requirements, it seems that all drainage is supposed to be maintained on site. So they have revised their plans to include drainage that's fully within the Boulder Court roadway, and separate drainage fully within the 85 Boulder Court actual site. We reviewed the calculations and it found it to be acceptable and meet the design standards as it is currently. But that's something, again, probably the applicants expand a little more on the roadway, sort of the drainage design of it. One thing that was unique here, though, and it's something we talked about when we met with the applicants, was that there's about a 1-foot separation to groundwater at the entrance from Brook Road. So what they did was they designed it to be similar to Overbay, right across from it. So it almost goes elevated a little bit with the drainage right at the entrance. Maybe you guys explain that a little better than me, but basically designed so it could be similar to that and avoid the concern about the groundwater. So the system here should be pretty consistent with what was shown on Overbay. Again, we don't have our side's engineering fully reviewing it yet, but we have, preliminary discussed it with them. And of course, engineers on their team, so.
So the plan is to retain Boulder Court emergency roadway drainage on site.
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, what's it called? Yeah, so then.
I guess the permeable roadway helps a lot.
Yeah, so that was also part of it too. So you'll notice that compared to the last plan, there's more paving towards the apron, closer to Brook Road, so it's a little further up. That's also to accommodate some of the new structures. That's similar to what's across from Overbay. They have indicated, they provide us more details about the maintenance in there. They give a little narrative about describing the maintenance of the roadway. The rest of it is still proposed to be crushed bluestone.
Yes, correct.
As the previous design was, but then now they're trying to mitigate it a little bit more by expanding some of the impervious surface. And then also have this maintenance plan, which I believe applicant's responsibility, right, maintaining going forward. So in terms, and please stop me if there's any questions. I know it's a lot of information. In terms of the actual site itself, right, there were questions last time about the amount of clearing, amount of disturbance of the slopes. The board, during the last discussion, said they're generally okay with the sitting of the residence where it is, right? Because recognizing there was an IA system being proposed kind of in the, I guess, the northwestern corner of the parcel. And doing the elevations where the retaining walls are, it's kind of hard to balancing out the location. They have reduced the clearing, so now it was at 60.1, I think. Now it's directly at 60%, so it does comply with the village's standards. They have also provided, again, updated drainage calculations for all the areas there. And I believe they're pretty consistent with the previous version that was
correct.
already provided. So kind of the biggest questions at this point is really discussion regarding what we have with the drainage, what we have regarding the kind of the site plan elements here. I do want to actually point really quickly as well to actual secra. So last time we did our whole coordinated review of the application, we mentioned concerns about the DEC, about Department of State, all these other elements, agencies would be required. So we did send them out, all the corresponding, to all the agencies. We only received comments from two, which is the DEC and the Department of Transportation. Department of Transportation said as long as there's no impact, I'm abbreviating here, I have the formal letters in your packet. Directed to the roadways, they didn't see non-jurisdiction on their part, so they didn't have any really major comments. The one thing that was important to note, though, was the DEC. So the DEC was aware of wetlands in the area. What they're requesting is they want the applicants to submit to them a formal application for a jurisdiction letter. Basically, they wanted showing where the wetland is in proximity to the site, and basically so they can determine their jurisdiction on the project. I don't think staff obviously is not opposed to that, given the way it is. The other thing they wanted to mention too is the northern long-eared bats, right? This is, I think almost all of Long Island now is considered within that territory. That's an endangered species, and it reduces the timeline for clearing.
Yes.
So I believe it's only in, what is it, December?
The end of November to
March 1st.
Yeah.
March 1, it said.
So they did make sure to emphasize that in their letter, and they also gave some standards and guidelines about how it's regulated as part of their correspondence. So that's
Does that apply to, there's no like, lot sizes are below a certain level? Doesn't
I think
matter.
it's all clearing.
It's all
Yeah.
clearing.
It's everything.
Yep.
Right.
Oh,
Even though there's
change of land uses?
Change of land use generally, what triggers the not being able to clear. If you put an addition on and you take trees down,
Right.
you're generally okay. But when you take a vacant lot and now you put a building on
Yeah,
it,
right.
that triggers having to comply.
So the intent of submitting to DEC is for them to say they're out, they have non-jurisdiction. They
That was the
defer.
goal, right? But they basically extended that they need more documentation to determine.
Is there a wetlands delineation somewhere? for them
There
to
is
use?
one. There's ones identified. If you go to DC's wetland mapper, there. I will say historically, some of these are definitely not present any longer, but they are considered identified at least. So there's also Mill Creek within proximity. So,
Right.
and the DC did recently, as of January 1st, update their regulations to still include the I think it's 12.9 acres, 12.1 acres, but then also wetlands of unusual significance. So I think they just want to take a further look at the project and kind of where its proximity is to.
Does that extend how long?
Well, that's-
how long do we have to give?
That's the question. We're at the point, so, right, we did the full environmental assessment form part 1. We did a little coordinated review. The planning board can technically declare there was no objections to the planning board being lead agency, so you can do that.
Oh.
The question is about the part 2 and part 3. So we do have to prepare the part 2, which is basically indicating whether or not there's any impacts, right, from this development. There is a potential here, and staff's still kind of in the process of reviewing it, that some could be moderate to large, things like drainage, the clearing, the disturbance, the steep slopes. Those are things that we have to kind of consider. The DC's questionable. I don't think this project would impact because now all the stormwater is being maintained on site.
Mhm.
But again, just because of the DC, that's the one question if the board wants to wait for that aspect of it.
I mean,
for-
how long will it take to get clarity on that?
Yeah.
Were they talking about sending somebody out to flag the wetlands?
I don't believe so. I have the letter actually. Hold on.
No, it seemed like
doesn't.
they want the applicant to prepare a,
Letter of no
to
jurisdiction,
submit
yeah.
where are they in relation to the nearest wetland. That's the
Yeah,
way
it
I got
says. It says the project appears to be located within it or adjacent to New York State Department of DEC regulated freshwater wetland.
And since the plan is to depict the boundary, DEC cannot give a specific recommendation at this
They
time.
want to see, they want to see the delineation.
An application or jurisdictional determination should be submitted to the DEC for determination, and they gave you kind of guidelines to do so.
And I guess my question is, can we just keep going?
Yeah, maybe,
While we,
yeah, yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And they just, the
'Cause
applicant
what-
runs the risk, that's all.
But I will say they did say they have no objection to you guys
Okay.
being with it. So I want to make that clear. They don't have any objection, but, so that, yeah, as long as that's acceptable to keep going, then, well, our goal is then, after tonight's discussion, is going back doing the part 2 and part 3. We're trying to have that before tonight, but of course, just the way things have been, and that clarification, we're kind
So
of,
we have to declare lead agency, though.
yes, you do, yeah.
All right.
Um,
Before we do that, anything else to add?
really, that was the bulk of our comments. I mean, staff
Mhm.
felt at this point they addressed a lot of what we've asked for and a lot of our concerns.
you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to.
Nothing on my end, no. Nothing for John. And
Just as, if there's anything we can do to expedite,
Yeah.
that would be great. I mean, if you guys are okay with the site plan the way it is, the drainage calculations, whatnot, clearings within reason. We're down to part 2, which is yes or no questions.
Yeah.
So if there's any way we can push this forward, because time's ticking, I have 6 months.
and try to push along to get the demo permit if possible, so we
Yeah.
can fall within that window.
Right,
To,
especially for that March 1st window,
Yep.
just to be
Yeah.
able to take
Yeah.
that. some-
December's only a couple weeks away, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. How has DEC been in getting back to you?
They were fast with me with this. They responded surprisingly very, I think within a week or what day is this from? Oh no, I'm sorry, this was November, so it did take a little bit. So we issued it middle of October, so a couple weeks.
Okay, that's pretty good.
It's still pretty good for
Yeah.
yeah, because for DEC it was,
Yeah.
we were surprised.
So we declare lead agency, then what's the next hurdle?
The next, basically the part 2 and the part 3.
Okay.
The question is if there's, because that what takes a while is if there's anything that could be potentially moderate to large impact, we have to vet it out in the part 3. So we have to go through an analysis, provide basically impact, and basically determine if it's going to have potential impact and the measures that they provided to mitigate those impacts.
Okay.
Then upon that, we will bring it back before the next meeting, theoretically December 11th, and we present those findings to the board.
So you can do that by then?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to make that. So that's as long, the DEC was a big question. As long as you're okay with us staff going ahead and doing that while the DEC is going on, we can certainly do that. And December 11th, we could go through, there's obviously minor site plan stuff we'll talk to them about, like, forwards bonds, all that kind of stuff, that conditions of approval. But we'll try to have the goal is to have that, as long as there's no other comments for tonight, to have all that ready for December.
Okay,
Very good.
all right.
Thanks.
Okay, if there's nothing else,
No.
can I get
I
a motion?
motion we declare lead agency.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
Good night.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yes. We're going along here. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Definitely makes,
I didn't call you up yet.
It takes a while.
That's a good answer. All right, this is 1510 through 1516 Main Street, AKA the Baxter.
That's correct. However, the agenda it's
1501.
1506, 1510, 1512. It's
Oh,
it's not 16.
oh, okay.
Okay. Cindy, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, you're introducing a new application, but we've already had an introduction,
You
so to
did,
speak.
back in
But
May.
this is a further introduction.
That's correct.
Okay.
Eric Russo, Van Brunt, Jeswiak, and Russo, with offices at 140 Main Street, Sayville, New York, on behalf of the applicant, Upper Harbor Port Jeff Realty LLC, the Gito Group, Anthony and Robert Gito. And with me this evening, I have Eric Nicosi, our project architect, Patrick Lenahan, our project engineer, Angelo Leno, who is behind me, who designed the site plan. And we would like to, I provided the request of your staff, a letter explaining what we were seeking to do here this evening.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go through that letter, or do you have something you want to add, or will it answer questions?
Yeah, I was
However you
gonna
would
ask-
like to do it.
I was gonna say if you guys wanted to go,
Want me to-
first,
I'll
if
be
that's
happy. We're pleased to present and discuss the project, the building elevations, the site plan, and the parking analysis provided with our site plan application, and all the supporting documents we gave in on October 16th. As you're aware, this project has been blessed, and Rob Gito was successful in applying for a Restore New York grant from Empire State Development Corp. for $790,000 to work towards this particular project and build the project that we're seeking to put forward, which is 40 units. It's a 36,385 square foot, 4-story mixed-use building with 2662 partial basement. As I indicated, in the 40 units, 33 are one-bedroom units in sizes between 588 to 753 square feet, 7 studios from 511 to 560 square feet. The market that they are seeking to attract is students from the university, doctors, nurses, PAs, and train commuters, because it's so accessible to the railroad. In this particular instance, the tax lots that are involved are, if you recall, 15 and 18 have dilapidated structures that are there on the site that need to be demolished, and there's an underutilized parking lot on tax lot 17. So the proposal is for that to come down and this structure to go up with associated amenities that are going to have a residential lounge, game room, fitness room, a storage room, ground level paved patio, roof terrace on the 4th floor facing the main street, and a roof deck on the northeast corner overlooking and heading out towards the harbor. That mixed use on the lower level is 2,000 square foot on the ground floor. At the moment, it's being discussed as 1,200 square feet for a takeout restaurant, but it might modify depending on input from the health department. 800 square feet of retail office space, which will all front on Main Street. We are looking for a conditional use permit under 250-51.1B4 of the Village Code for a conditional use permit. And we're also seeking and trying to apply and see if we'll get a wet use grease trap approval from the health department. And the reason is that we're going there and discussing with John Sanjan and also with Vergus George and with Jonathan Pye is because they can't access the sewer in the street because of the proximity and the sidewalk. It's not possible to access. But we don't know that the health department will grant us that use, so the whole idea of a takeout restaurant may go out the window. If we don't get clearance, we ask them to look at Nassau County, see what's permitted there, and if they're willing to entertain it here, it'll be a case of first impression from the way we understand in our discussions there. The property will be owned and managed by the applicant, and you're well aware of the property owner applicant's other properties here in the village. As to parking, and as it relates to the parking, why we're happy about this, there seems, in our opinion, to be no need for any variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. This whole application can come before you. And in addition, there's parking compliance with the code, because when you look at the number of parking spaces required for this particular location, we've determined that we have a need for a total of 49. We have 28 parking spaces on site, and then we have the availability of accessing 21 spaces on the Realty residential lot, which we have to access and continue to utilize Texaco and Linden to get out. And you come in maybe on Route 112 there, up at that location. That being said, when you then compare it to the Realty site, we have a total of 162 spaces overall. So there's 49 for this, and under your new code requirements, we have 123 on rail. And when you break it out and you pull it apart, therefore we have 134 for rail and 28 for the Baxter. So there's no real parking requirement for variance given the layout. And as this board is aware, back in, I'm gonna say, 2019-17, when we did the rail project, we created that additional parking with a lease the arrangement that we had with the MTA, also with rail, also with the village, where we did the construction, the village did the construction of the parking, we did the construction of sprinklers, lights, et cetera, and we maintain it. And those spaces are exclusively used by rail to be used by no other developers. Because there was some rumblings that an adjoining property owner may be trying to come in and get access with maybe 2 spaces, but that application was withdrawn. So I'm pleased to come here for a change and present an application that requires 8 other approvals. Site plan from you, Suffolk County DPW, Suffolk County Health Department, Suffolk County Water Authority, New York State DOT, LIPA, National Grid, and if we decide on behalf of the applicant, if it merits it to go to the Brookhaven Town IDA, we'll make application there, but no application has been filed at this time. You would need to have Suffolk County Planning Commissioner under 239M talk about and approve the conditional use that we're seeking and recommend it. And I have Eric who can explain to you the design that he arduously put together, which sort of mirrors some of the other projects that you're familiar with here in the village. Pat is here to talk to you about the parking and has done an analysis. Angelo's prepared to answer questions on the site plan. And believe it or not, we have the benefit of 2 Gitos who may have other things to add if you want to hear from them. That's all we have to say.
Wow, okay.
And-
Thank
and
you for
we'd
the
like to-
summary. That was
We'd like to get on the planning board calendar as quickly as possible,
Okay.
but I know you may have some other concerns.
Right. Okay, Eric.
Okay, excellent. I don't know if we can dial up the rendering that we had submitted. That'd be helpful. That was a separate separate file.
There you
Thank you very much for that. So the project is in compliance with the comprehensive plan as well as the few zoning requirements that are on the books for this type of project. Also, having the pedestrian access from the west side of the property all the way through Main Street is one of the goals that was in the comprehensive plan that we have addressed. Mr. Russo had described the first floor amenities as well as the commercial space, which we've increased from our last submission up to an additional 500 square feet. That includes the takeout restaurant proposal that would also help the Main Street area with attracting feet on the street. So the building does comply with there's a section 250-19F about regulations for the building, which the facade is modulated. So the requirement is to have bump outs, essentially is how that's described, with 40 feet. So we're in the 23-foot range. So the facade is well modulated. The entrances are set back from the street 3 feet at least from the main part of the building. So on the right-hand side is the entrance into the lower lounge and lobby, which would also gain you access up into the rest of the apartments. There's a double-sided elevator that would take you up. You can also enter the apartments from the back side of the building. The entrance all the way on the left is where we share an entrance with the 2 potential commercial spaces down below. So we required 60% first floor fenestration and window area. So we meet that as well as the 30% window requirement upstairs. On the upper floors, then we have balconies to help with the residential scale of the project. The setback that is required that we're providing is the 12-foot from the main part of the building for the 4th floor on Main Street. And that provides a roof terrace for the tenants on that side of the building. Each would have their own little terrace. And this design features railings up there to help lighten the look out of it. The building does have high quality, it's all masonry materials, has a limestone base. It has a part of the guidelines were a base, middle, and a top. So we do that with the limestone base and the band that's on the facade that also acts as a signage band. We have some awnings that are worked into it on that lower level. And then the top level has a cornice, large cornice that surrounds the whole top of the building. And I believe we are, meeting the codes and the guidelines. This type of, without assigning a style to it, the comprehensive plan does list as a contemporary design as one of the suggested types for Main Street. And so we are echoing off of our One North Country Road, a design which we feel is very successful and has a lot of compliments for it. And we were excited to bring another nice project here to the village and help improve the uptown Upper Port area.
And then Pat Lenahan.
Good evening again.
Good
How are you? So Eric explained that the way the project is put together with the common ownership with the Hills site immediately to the west, we believe that we don't require a variance for parking. However,
Sure.
sorry. Okay. Better? However, my office prepared a parking study, including existing parking utilization in the vicinity of the site and the Hills site, as well as a look at the actual demand projections of the parking we think we're going to see at the Baxter. Just to go above and beyond and prove, I think, very conclusively that there will be enough parking in the site and it will not spill out into the general area and cause any problems with anyone else. So to do this, the first thing we did was went out and counted existing parking occupancy in the vicinity of the site. That was on the Hills site itself, both the surface lot and the two garages. And there's under the buildings, and there's two reasons for doing that. First is to determine how many vacant stalls there are in the surface lot. But as a whole, what we were able to do is calculate a parking demand rate for the Hills that we could apply to the units proposed in the Baxter. And what that should do is give us a very accurate prediction of what the Baxter apartments should require for parking. It's typically the same type of apartment, and it's literally right next to each other in the same community. So we went out on a weekday night from 6 in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night. We counted parking occupancy at the Hills. We counted parking occupancy on Linden Place. And we did parking occupancy in the, let's call it the railroad lot at the south end of Texaco, including distinguishing the 19 spaces that are reserved for the Hills. So that gave us two things. It gave us the amount of vacant parking that's available now, and it gave us a rate for the apartments. This is all detailed in the study, which I believe was submitted.
It was.
It's dated October 16th. The second part of this equation is how much parking will the Baxter generate over the course of the peak times a day, again, from 6 in the afternoon to 11 at night on a weekday and a Saturday, using the rate from the Hills and some published data for the commercial parts of the site. And all that's summarized in the report, and at the end of the day, what the report shows is that we will have enough parking with the Baxter operating the way we believe it's going to operate. A couple things that the report does not take into effect that you might consider when you review it. It doesn't reflect the fact that any retail or restaurant activity here would have a high number of walk-ups. We did not adjust for that. We used the full load. We used parking rates for a high turnover sit-down restaurant and not a takeout restaurant. So in my opinion, that parking rate that we used is heavy. I think, folks in a takeout restaurant, they're there and gone. And the final thing is, and I was looking at this just today that isn't in the report, we have to close, as part of our DOT permit, the two existing curb cuts on Main Street, on the west side of Main Street. That will eliminate an inefficiency in the curbside parking that exists currently. So taking a look at it, there's about 100 feet length between the two curb cuts and some spaces near them that aren't used because of the curb cuts, that could now be striped out for parking. And I believe we will get 4 or 5, 4, maybe 5, at least 4 parking stalls right on Main Street, which will help out everybody. And that's my report.
Is there any time restrictions on that part of Upper Main? I'm not
Well,
sure.
in the area I'm talking about, there really is no parking right now. But one of the things you could consider is a 10 or 15-minute time restriction for the retail, and the restaurants might be, that's up to the village to decide.
I was there this past week parking up in that area. To my knowledge, I didn't see any signage that
I don't-
indicated you
I
had
don't think there
restrictions
is.
for parking.
But it might make sense. I don't,
I had a quick question. Again, maybe I missed an email, but I saw all of this today for the first time,
Okay.
maybe a few hours before, and I even had to ask to get the plans. So that said, haven't had a lot of time to digest this. My question for you is, though, I noticed that I'm looking at your existing parking occupancy table A.
Okay.
And it lists, Linden Place, the Hills Railroad Lot. One was done on Wednesday, one was done on a Saturday, with months and months in between. Anyway, my question was, I noticed that the surface lots tend to be used. There's only 9 to 4 vacant surface stalls available.
at the Hills.
Yes, I'm going by your
Okay.
the
I'm looking at the same thing.
right. Okay, and then the garages, which is I'm assuming what's underneath.
Yeah.
That's predominantly where the majority of the vacant stalls are. So I'm curious, how do you plan on having people that are at the Baxter park in the garages?
No. So this was the existing portion of the exercise.
Okay.
The next portion, the proposed portion of the exercise, we took those vacant parking stalls in the garage, in the 2 garages. There's 2 buildings.
Okay.
And we ignored them.
Okay.
They're not in there.
So again, I could be, from my recollection from the pre-submission, whenever it was, I can't remember, May. The idea was to use some surface parking for the Baxter from the Hills.
Correct.
But I guess my question is, it doesn't seem like there's vacant parking.
Well, depending on the time of day, there's between 9 and 4, and in the
But-
evening, folks
okay.
come home to their apartment, and those spaces tend to fill up.
Right, so then we're only 2 on the weekends that were vacant at night.
Late at night. but
Late at night.
Late at night, the Baxter's retail and restaurants are closed, so there are a couple things happening at once. But
Okay.
on balance, looking at, for instance, the 19 dedicated stalls in the railroad parking lot at the south end of Texaco, the majority of those stalls are available.
Okay.
The
So we're-
28 on Baxter are available, and some of the surface spaces, albeit
So
a small
the
number.
plan is for the Baxter to utilize some vacant stalls. Are you designating certain stalls at the Hills that are at the Baxter? I guess I'm trying to picture how I hear that you
Can I
have.
ask a
yes,
question?
Please do.
Are you planning to have a permanent easement, parking easement between the 2 properties? Shared?
Well, we don't need a permanent parking easement between the 2 properties because the Rail Realty project owns the property that created the parking on the other side of Linden over there that comes around Texaco. And we all have our existing parking here, so based on your zoning parking calculations, we have per unit the number, whether it's a studio, 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom, we have and meet your zoning code requirements.
Even with the retail?
Even with the retail, we completely comply with the
Depending
parking.
upon the amount of retail.
Right, but at the present time, there was a request and an explanation that the village wanted to see retail in the Baxter, if we were able to come up with it, if we were able to get what we needed. That's why we propose, at the moment, 2,800 is retail office. and the 1,200 happens to be the takeout restaurant.
And why,
We need to
can you
discuss as a
explain
board.
why the takeout restaurant and
We need to
the
discuss. this as a
connection
board.
through the sidewalk to the sewer? I heard earlier in
About
your summary.
Well, the issue is that the sewer line, it's a very big sidewalk, but the sewer line runs right down the middle of the sidewalk, where typically the sewer is probably in the street more. So a regular grease trap's 8-foot diameter, and you need clearances all around it. So there's really no physical space to put it downhill in that spot. So we're stuck with having to, we would be able to utilize, like we've done in Patchogue and other spaces in Nassau County, an interior grease trap, which we've had additional engineering support and efforts with the health department that they're willing to discuss that further. So that's how we're.
But they haven't agreed to that. And if they don't agree to that,
Mhm.
then that option eliminates itself. So,
And you just do dry retail.
yes, or we'd have to speak with the applicants and figure out how they would want to come up with what the space would be on the first floor there at the entry level.
So, just to circle back, do you plan on using parking at the hills for the Baxter? Okay. So I guess we'll look at, I haven't seen that recently.
I just
That was my
wonder,
only
yeah.
question for them, and then
Yeah,
are you, do you have
I'm sorry, go ahead.
questions
go
for
ahead.
them?
No,
or-
I mean, the two separate tax lots, Baxter and the Hills could have separate ownership down the road, and so,
Yeah.
so
Well,
this is
They
concerned.
could,
They
they
could.
could, except what we have is, this is copies, because I brought a copy, just in case someone might have forgotten what we had.
Right.
These are the agreements that were signed between the village and the applicant and the MTA that was approved, and everybody agreed that those spaces were ours
He's
exclusively.
talking about the railroad, not,
I'm
you're
talking about the 19 spaces that are across on Linden and Texaco.
Right.
So I brought them because we went back and we took a look at that.
But I think we're
No,
talking
let 'em-
about.
let 'em
this-
finish.
Okay.
Let 'em finish. Go ahead.
No, so what we did, by having the benefit of using those spaces with the spaces that exist on the rail piece,
Mhm.
we have more than adequate parking based on the zoning calculations that you have recreated as to how many spaces per studio and per one-bedroom unit, and we meet the village requirements. If a resident, I mean, it's like anything else, if you come home and you're the last one home, well, you gotta find a parking space. But the bottom line is, there is a space, and for each resident that wants to be there, depending on how and when they get there, and whether they're under the garage or whether out in the field, they have spaces to meet their parking needs per unit, per code.
And I think this is something staff has to dig into for us.
Oh, yeah, I think we're getting into the weeds a little.
Yeah, I think so, too.
But
Mhm.
I would like to discuss as a board that the submission that we got in May has not changed in terms of, you know what my comment's going to be, is the whole first floor is supposed to be, I don't want to use the word retail, it's a commercial space. They have not changed the fact that they are using way more than 30% of the space. Wait, I'm going to read the code. Because I disagree completely that you meet the code. And so do you guys remember how we talked about this? It was permitted uses are banks and retail stores and accessory services, provided that the space so used, we're talking about accessory services, is fully concealed and equal in area to no more than 30% of the square footage devoted to retail sales.
No more than 30%.
Correct.
That's
And you guys
only-
have,
that's only
it's not even
for-
50/50.
That's only for the bank as an accessory use within that. That does not apply.
Banks and retail stores. So let me tell you how I read what I'm proposing is that I disagree. I think they need to, we either need, as a board, need to decide how to interpret what C2, what the intention of C2 was and what the intention of our plan was. Okay, and if we disagree with the applicant's reading of our code and our comprehensive plan, then my idea is that you need to go to zoning and you need to get a variance.
Well, I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
So let me read again the section you were referring to. Under
Right.
that section of permitted uses, banks, retail stores, and accessory uses, provided that the space so used is concealed fully and equal in area to no more than 30% of the square footage devoted to retail sales.
Right.
So what we're explaining to you is at the moment, we have 2 proposed uses that we're seeking there. And we also have, may I finish, a real estate consultant that's here who can talk to you about retail sales uses, and I'll
Right.
bring him up right now. So he can address your questions because it's
This,
beyond.
it's not, I don't want to go back and forth
Well-
again. Like, I really don't want to do this back and forth. I think that we as a board need to decide what the comprehensive plan intention was, what our code intention was. My interpretation was that the entire first floor was for some sort of retail use, some sort of restaurant use, you know, a permitted use in the C2. It was not for the tenant, the applicant, to have a gym. It was not for them to have a game area. That was not the intent. And that is what 2 applications before us are doing. And I think that we need to have and come to a conclusion if this is what we want. And I don't think that we as a board can make that decision for the entire village of Port Jefferson. I think that we need to get the Board of Trustees to weigh in, and I think that the zoning board should weigh in also. I don't think this is something that we as the planning board can make a decision about, because I really feel that the intent of the comprehensive plan and the intent of this code was to read that the first floor was not for the tenant to have their own personal space.
So you're
Yeah,
proposing.
I'm talking to the board.
Yeah, I was involved extensively in the comprehensive plan, 11, 12 years ago, and I concur with you. That was my understanding of the intent.
So before
The-
any of these projects can go forward,
Go ahead.
I think that we need to come to a conclusion. I don't think we're going to be able to do it today. And again, I really think, I think we have our Board of Trustee liaison, and I think that it needs to be weighed in on. I don't think that we can go forward with these applications unless we clearly understand what we're doing.
I will just add that we did, in response to the board's request, and we did increase the commercial space in that area up to where we feel that we're comfortable with. There was also a recent update of the vacancy rate in the area, which is in the high 40-something% range. So we're looking to avoid additional vacancies, and I just wanted to point out that we did respond and update
Not
the
seeing
areas a
a
little
drastic
bit.
difference. Can you tell me the percentage? How much did you increase?
I
And what
added
is the percentage? of your-
500 square feet, about 15 feet along the frontage of the building.
I don't see a significant, so
So
that's my
But there is
2 cents.
nothing in the zoning code, whether or not it was the intent of the plan or whatever, there's nothing in the zoning code that prescribes a required area other than 800 square feet's a minimum for a particular unit. The section of the code referencing there is not applicable to the whole building, it's applicable to a particular use in the building. And that's what I'll say.
Then I think the zoning board needs to clarify.
I don't think it's really a zoning board matter.
Somebody
I
has to.
think it's, I'm not sure who it is, but I don't think it's a zoning board.
No, I think it would be.
Really?
Yeah.
For code interpretation, you.
Yeah,
for
for
code
code
interpretation.
interpretation.
You typically go to the zoning board of
Code
appeals.
interpretation.
Yeah.
I guess.
Chief building inspector could weigh in, but the planning board can refer it to the zoning board for this if you do feel,
Yeah.
but you have to, and you guys have to consider it all. It doesn't have to be tonight. It shouldn't be tonight. You
No.
should talk about this and see whether you feel that these are permitted uses or not. If you don't feel that this is, the proposed use is a permitted use, then you take it over to the zoning board and they can do interpretation.
How is accessory, again, defined in the code?
So my understanding was accessory services are their personal use. It's mailboxes, it's entryways, it's game rooms, it's fitness, it's the accessory use to their, it's not apartments per se, it's their,
So that's permitted on the first floor or not?
only if it's completely concealed and it's
Which it's not according to the
No, and
elevation
it's-
views.
no more than 30% of the square footage devoted to retail sales. And I would say it's not even, you can't see
Yeah,
it.
but I
here.
mean, it's
mean, that
clearly
would
the way
mean-
the code is written. I know it's commas, but commas are important. And that little section only refers to accessory use within that retail use. It doesn't, it's not reflecting uses in the whole building as a
No, well,
definition. I
So
understand what
you tell me, when you guys did the comprehensive plan, was the idea to have,
Retail on the first floor, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank
So obviously, you would
Point out
need to
behind
be
you,
able
we
to
have
have,
the
Yeah, yeah.
definition for accessory. Oh, you have it?
I
up
have
there.
it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't mean to jump in, but I just want to give a quick perspective too, just about C2 and kind of some of the standards we had, because last time there was also questions too for another different project on Oakland, also kind of related to this one, in terms about the conditional use standards for mixed-use structures, also multiple dwellings, things of that nature, right? The way the code currently reads is that mixed-use buildings are permitted, as you know already, are permitted in the C2 district as long as everything on the ground floor is permitted. If any of those are conditional, typically the project would have to comply with those conditional use standards. It's not directly specified in the code that whether or not, if because the ground floor isn't permissible, if they have what kind of conditional use standards they have to comply with. That's something that's like, at least the vagueness in the code let that open to interpretation. Last time was another point of discussion between the applicants and us last time about should the conditional use standards apply for those uses, right? For the restaurant use, for other things. And this is more so in the other project we're gonna go to next after this one. But I think we, as staff, also recognize the way the code is, it is vague. The way in terms of what's allowed, what's permissible, because that accessory use could be, right, it's a mixed use structure, so there's a overall use, but there's also the accessory uses within the overall use that makes it difficult to like really interpret. So I think we understand the need for, the zoning board and interpretation on that. I just want to say that there's also other areas of the C2 and the mixed use code, I think, especially the conditional use standards, I think are worth bringing in with that conversation, because this really comes up more about ground floor multiple dwellings, which doesn't apply as much to this project, but it does apply to the next one. And 15-foot ceiling heights.
Jim, who would weigh in on the intent of the comprehensive plan with this matter, regarding this matter?
I mean, I think you guys as a board could try to do your own
Research.
Well, and
Yeah.
your own interpretation
Yeah.
as to whether the proposed uses are permitted. And if you're struggling with that, then you can send it over to the zoning board for.
Yeah, we think we should.
Yeah.
Or, and/or variance.
Right.
You've already mentioned board of trustees. The board of trustees' role would be if they want to actually change the code, change the
Right.
wording to maybe reflect, the current realities of
Mhm.
retail.
Right.
That could be something.
Right.
That could be.
Yes.
At which point do I get to add something to the mix?
Now would be a good time. I
So
see you brought a gentleman up here and talk about retail.
Before I point to the gentleman to speak, I just want to again point to what I started in the beginning of the presentation. Tax lot 15, 17, and 18. What you have in 15 and 18 are buildings where you had retail space. And if all of us go walk along Fort Jefferson up in that area, all the retail space is gone. It's blighted. It's not there. People are not walking there, whether they're coming from the train.
I hear you.
Okay, well,
hear you.
it's my turn, please.
Yeah.
So my point is that retail space that you would like to add or
Mhm.
hope to dream to have there, then people have to come there and want to be there, and you have to find tenants that will be willing to invest and stay in those spaces. And as we all know, because
Yes.
I've been here in the village, lived in the village myself, the Gap used to be downtown, gone.
Right.
Nobody's been able to fill that space. So my real estate expert that we have retained, let him explain to you, just so we have it here for you to
Pause
think.
for one moment. So what I'm saying is we can go back and forth about whether retail is feasible, about whether that's what we want. However, what I'm trying to say is the way that I read our code, the way that our comprehensive plan has been developed is that there will be retail on the first floor. If we disagree with that, fine, but it's not, then the code needs to change, or you get a variance.
Or you go back and read the minutes from the master plan and
Right.
see what was said in the
Correct.
minutes
Great.
as to how it came.
Excellent.
Exactly.
Your board doesn't do interpretations the last time that I
Right,
understood.
so
It has
let's
to go to
send
the
it-
zoning board.
yes.
But I'm also going to point out to you that as far as this application is going on and moving forward, there hasn't been a denial saying, oh, we don't comply with that section of the code. This is your view, your interpretation that you're sharing with the board.
Which I shared
and
with
the
them in May.
And again, I wasn't here in May. I apologize. I wasn't invited to the party, but I would be giving you the same discussion points in May. And I would just like to share here and let my real estate expert just explain and to address this particular issue. And then we'll go see where it ends up. But if the village board starts to change the code, that's problematic. And if the zoning board is going to start now being told that they have to give an interpretation at your request or at our request, are you asking us to go and apply for an interpretation?
I
Who's
would say it would
making that?
come from us.
Well, then, are you saying?
But that's a question for,
I mean, as Eric said, they could actually make the application if there's a determination from this board that it's not a permitted use.
Or
the
they're-
or the planning board could send it over itself, which would probably.
I would think. But I'd just like to add a little testimony from Breslin Realty, Development Corp. Robert Delphin.
Okay. You're gonna need a mic, just before you get going.
I speak pretty loud.
He can't.
I'm Director of Leasing for Breslin Realty. I'm Executive Vice President. I've been with Willie for 30 years. My job is to keep properties leased, released, and hopefully lease developments similar to this. I visited the site. I've seen the plan. I think it's a beautiful development. I think the issue is the developer always wants it to be viable, and the town needs it to be viable. I don't see retail on the ground level here as viable. Number one, you don't have parking. To get a retailer, any kind of a decent retailer in, you're going to need parking. And typically, retailers don't like to see on-street parking. They like to see parking lots. They don't like to see enclosed lots. Nobody's going to park in an enclosed lot in a building, underneath, below a building, and walk to the retail. It's just not going to happen. I don't see enough foot traffic in this area to make any kind of retail viable, but for potentially some sort of a takeout restaurant, because a takeout restaurant not only depends on walking traffic, they do deliveries. So they're going to have people pull up, they're going to take the delivery, and they're going to bring it to people in the village. They're going to be in and out of the parking spaces. They're not going to use them. They're not going to sit there. A sit-down restaurant, depending on the size, you're going to have the same problem. You're going to have parking as an issue. People take time to eat. You spend an hour and a half in a restaurant eating. Where are they going to park? Where are you going to park? I don't know how big the restaurant is, but you got to figure you're going to be looking at anywhere between 50 and 80 seats. That's potentially 40 parking spaces. Where are those people going to park? There's no parking. So what you're going to end up having is it's going to be very pretty for a month or for 2 months when they open, and it's going to be beautiful. But come 6 months, 8 months, when all of a sudden the customers aren't coming in, you're going to have nothing but vacancies. And that's not going to do anybody any good as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's the last thing you want to see. As far as a takeout restaurant, I mean, I would make the argument that the takeout restaurant also serves the tenants. We just built a building in Lynbrook, 265 apartments, and we ended up with a local restaurateur who put in a coffee shop and like a diner or whatever, and he's basically servicing the apartments. He opens up into the lobby and he services the residents of the apartments, but he also capitalizes of the train station, because the train station is right next door. That's what I see here. But to think you're going to get somebody like the Gap or even a local mom and pop selling clothing or whatever, they can't survive. They don't have the parking and they don't have the foot traffic to survive.
so can I ask you a quick
Sure.
question? So another permitted use, personal service stores, such as, but not limited to, barbershops, beauty parlors, and tailors. Personal service stores shall not be deemed to include tattoo parlors, blah, blah, blah. How have you noticed vacancies? I mean, I know that downport C1, we have a lot of different uses. It doesn't all have to be retail. We keep using the word retail, and understand the pushback.
How is a barber shop going to survive? Nobody's going to come. Somebody's got to come. They've got to park someplace and get a haircut.
I think the idea, and Lee, maybe you can weigh in, when they did the comprehensive plan, the idea was we are building a lot of residential multifamily units. So you actually have built-in clientele.
That was the idea.
So if you have right now, I forgot, does the shoe guy, the cobbler, is he still there? I mean, there's all kinds of different uses. And the intent was that the first floor of the buildings uptown on Main Street, only on Main Street, not on the side streets, were to be spaces for that. It does not have to be retail, and it does not have to be restaurant, just a permitted use within C2. So are barbershops going out of business? Are beauty parlors going out of business? Are dry cleaners going out of
honestly,
business? That
they
actually they might. That's not a
They
good
are.
example. But I
Yeah,
go
and
to
the
the
other thing,
beauty
Robert, I mean, the retail space up there is inferior. But the idea behind the comprehensive plan I think it was adopted in 2014 or 2015 was, I'm sorry, the idea behind, general concept for Upper Port Jefferson section of the comprehensive plan was to develop a significant amount of new multifamily housing stock with retail on the first floor. And, the apartment dwellers would support the retail. Now, if that's not viable and things have changed, which perhaps, is the case, I just think as a village, we have to recognize that, and there has to be, maybe an update to our comprehensive plan so that we're not running afoul of the intent of the comprehensive plan.
I understand that it can be your plan, and it's a great plan, but I was only asked to comment on the viability of this project, and to put retail in this project, I would not want to be, I would not want to be tasked with trying to lease the ground floor for retail, other than, as I said, a nice coffee shop or whatever that will, as you say, service the residents as well as anybody else that happens to be walking on the street. But I do not see somebody from the middle of the village driving here to pick up a coffee and driving away. I just don't see it. They're going to go to Starbucks and sit on a drive-thru, which I don't understand either, but that's what they're going to do.
Could be right.
The other part is, and I've seen it myself personally, watched family members and watched others. The issue has been in terms of retail. Amazon's a great thing. You can order it today and have it tomorrow. So why am I going to a store? I've been buying things that I never thought I would buy. So I'm just saying, in response to Lee's comment about maybe things have changed from 2014, where the retail component has now been modified based on societal uses, that I'm telling you right now that, yeah, you may need to have to look at your master plan and you may have to redefine that. But that shouldn't hold up this application. Because if that held up this application and others that are coming before you, what you're saying is, as the application come in and it doesn't suit you, well, we're going to reinterpret our code by sending you to the zoning board so we can.
Oh, that's a gross misinterpretation of what we're doing.
I'm just.
That's 100%. If you were here in May, it's not that I don't like. I think Gito is an amazing developer. I think his properties are wonderful. I am not opposed to it. What I am opposed to is going afoul of our code and what the intent was. And by you saying that I am interpreting the code negatively just for your client is a gross misinterpretation of what I'm saying.
My client, I'm saying any client or any applicant that's coming in with that type of an application.
So I'm hearing that they are 100%
I'm not
opposed.
personalizing it against you and I.
Okay.
I'm trying to point out to you that the statement that I'm making is, as Lee pointed out, the needs of the public, the needs of people have changed from 2014.
Very likely.
You're now 11 years onward.
Right.
And things have changed. COVID's come in and people have gone in another direction as to how they
Yes,
buy and sell.
but we have
But
in C1, we have a dog boutique. We have a manufacturer that produces dog food. There's other uses besides, we keep saying retail, but there's a lot of other uses permitted. And it's only on Main Street, and it's the first floor on Main Street.
Okay.
So again, we can keep going back and
Yeah,
forth.
I don't wanna-
So it's
I'll pause.
it's,
Thank you,
it's,
I pause.
yes, and I appreciate,
I'm just
I
pointing out,
respect you. I just hope that you
I'm not in
also
any way
respect.
denigrating your thoughts
Okay,
or your
thank you.
concepts. I'm pointing out to you and following up on what Lee said, that
Right.
there has been an evolution.
For retail, and I agree, fine, retail, but there are other permitted uses.
If I may interrupt, I think what I'm hearing here, I understand your point, the concern about retail. The ideal of when the comprehensive plan was, and I believe it's still a planning ideal, is to build walkable communities. A
Right.
walkable community where people
Yes.
can live,
Work and
up-
play.
work and play. They
Yes.
can shop. My concern, I agree with you, the retail is having, it is what it is. It's a whole
Sure.
new world, right. But there are gonna be uses on that first floor for some restaurants, for, a small market, for things like that. And I think to automatically preclude them and close off that portion of that first floor, I don't know how much we're talking about here. Is it one of the extra areas?
Can you describe the area?
Yeah, so on the lower part of the plan, the hatched out part,
Right.
that would be the takeout, and then the other part is the retail. So,
Right.
I mean, that's almost,
Anything in pink
45% of
is
the first
theirs.
floor of the building.
Right.
So these buildings are gonna need amenity spaces. They need a lounge, they need a lobby, they need a game room. We can't put them all in the basement, and we can't put them on an upper floor.
Mhm.
So however your direction you're going, you have to keep in mind that these buildings do need these amenity spaces.
Well, you could put
But
them on
you're
a
also-
different floor and
and I-
reduce the number of
Well,
apartments.
then it's not.
It
not
takes away the
practical.
feasibility.
Well,
Then you're
heard
gonna have
that.
but then you're gonna have vacant retail on the ground floor.
We're not talking
But
about
at some
retail.
point.
But you're gonna have vacant
At some
space.
point, and this is one of the things I keep hearing
So-
is that,
Of a
when are people gonna start to buy in the area? Nobody's gonna buy in until people start to live in there. Nobody's gonna live in there until they have the amenities. And if
Support,
you
yeah.
just keep, I understand what you're saying. You need these areas, and that's, I hate to put it this way, that's your problem, to figure out how you're gonna get that, the 6 pounds of what into a 3-pound bag. And, where our concern is, that I'm hearing, is, how do we honor what the code calls for? Do we just make a blanket statement? I don't think we can. There's a lot more coming down the pike, hopefully up here. And once people start to live in these communities, they're gonna wanna spend money. They're not gonna wanna get in their car and go down to the village where it's tough to park anyway. So, they're gonna wanna spend.
They're gonna go to the mall. They're gonna go to the mall and go to my
how
shopping
often I
center
go
with
to the
Trader.
mall?
And
I
they go
go
to
to
my
Robert-
shopping center with Trader
Robert,
Joe's.
Robert,
They don't do that in Lowerport, and we've got apartment complexes and
Right.
people walk to the restaurants.
I think if you
and,
use,
know,
I
they
think
do
if
it.
you
Very
look,
low
I think if you
vacancy
look at,
in
I think if you
C1.
look at Placer data, which basically tracks everybody's cell phones, you're gonna see that the majority of people downtown are traveling to Smith Haven Mall, and they're traveling
Well,
to the
let-
shopping
So
centers.
in C1, what is our vacancy rate?
I believe we had 9% at the last time we reviewed it, and some of those spaces are now, as you saw tonight, actively being
So
filled.
I hear the argument for retail, but I completely disagree. I think, so what, I'm hearing that so first of all, am I the only one on the board that feels this way?
I think you've got probably a majority that feel that
Okay.
way.
So if this is our interpretation of the code, which I believe is our purview, if you disagree with our interpretation of the code, then perhaps that is something that you need to take to the zoning board. Is that correct?
So at the moment, I would like Robert Gito to just say one.
Sure.
Before we do that, I think, we've got conflicting things going on here. We've got a comprehensive plan that recognizes the fact that as you add apartments, you're gonna have people living there. You're gonna have certain uses that they're gonna like to see where they can just go downstairs and get it taken care of. whether it's a takeout restaurant, and I think a coffee shop would do fine here. You've got people going to the train, you park around the corner, you run over, grab your cup of coffee, and hop on the train. On the other hand, we do know that retail has changed since COVID, and there are certain retail uses that aren't going to be like the traditional ones. But whether it's retail or, as Laura says, different types of shops, things like that, there is a need for that. And the intent was always, as the apartments get occupied, that there is a need for those people to stay in the immediate area and have those needs satisfied. Now you've got a total of how many apartments are constructed? About 200 to date, with one North Country and the two.
Just shy of it. It's like 100.
183, and you've right, and you've got 40 going in with this building, right? And then across the street is another 74. That's a decent number. And Conifer's there. Conifer's got a.
Well, no, our 180 aren't all uptown. I'm sorry. No.
Oh, okay,
No,
okay.
no. We have 100 uptown.
100 uptown.
No, no, but and
And-
what's our vacancy uptown? I didn't hear that.
He didn't say.
Oh, uptown?
Yeah.
Oh, it's much higher.
Oh,
higher.
yeah. Well, no, it is.
Hold
what
on,
it-
hold on.
Can I
Some
please
of those
just
are-
say something? I know where you're going to go. It's a high number. But
I
just
was
like
gonna-
say, Lee, I was also part of the comprehensive
the wrong
plan
answer.
committee. Yes, it was generally said retail, but that's just a general. No one's thought out. No one sat with plans and like, well, how much will be amenity space? How much will be a lobby? It's just, of course, it was just a general statement. Plus, no,
I
it-
think it's very detailed.
no, I was part of it. It was just no one thought, well, there's going to be a lobby. How much percentage? There was never talked about a percentage. It's not in. It's not there.
30%. It says.
That's well, we look at that differently than what you're saying.
So that's why I'm saying.
And
I
let me
think-
also just say, if you go to any of our buildings, I invite you to. Many of our tenants
Mm-hmm.
are downstairs working, so a lot of this lounge space is actually general workspace. Where instead of a vacancy, we have people working in the windows, sitting with laptops. We're creating Zoom rooms. All of our buildings have Zoom rooms now. So you got to also.
Well,
you
open
got
it
to.
up to the public. Create a WeWork space in the bottom, and
Well,
then
we do
you can
plenty
rent
with the
it.
community, but I do appreciate that suggestion. But yeah, we like to keep things private, and if you're paying that kind of money, you'd want to keep it private too. But I appreciate the suggestion. But you have to think about the world we're in today, the needs of the people that we're trying to bring to Port Jeff, retain in Port Jeff. You want to bring the young people back here, you got to provide these things. Putting them all in the basement, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I guess we could put the second, third floor, but then these projects they're not financially going to work out. At the end of the day, it has to pencil out as well. So we're trying our best to make a difference here and revitalize this area. So we're trying to work with you. We added more retail than what we had. We're trying our best here, but you also just have to look at where the world is today. So I just appreciate you considering that.
Yeah, and another point of view, and it's not Port Jefferson, but Ronkonkoma, right? You got Tritech, it's another developer, but they've got first floor. They've got mostly retail,
But you
retail
can't-
restaurants.
All restaurants. Where's our grease traps? All restaurants.
Mhm.
That's our problem again.
See, I think there's, if all the people who live in the apartments went to the businesses that were on the first floor, I don't think it would support the first floor financially. I think you need more people, and that's what we're looking at. So Uptown used to be the service area, okay? We had 2 dry cleaners and 1 left, Jenny's Dry Cleaner, and now we just have New Best Dry Cleaners on the corner. We had a tailor. Tailor went out of business. We had 3 or 4 barber shops at one point, and there was a lot of upheaval because there were 4 barber shops. We do have 2 places to get coffee. One is the Spanish one on the corner next to the railroad tracks. The other one is Seven Brothers, which I used to go to all the time. I met a woman who lived in Conifer, and she goes, yeah, I love it. I get up in the morning, go across the street and get my coffee. And then she said something else, and I go, where do you live? She goes, Conifer. I go, where are you getting your coffee? She goes, 7-Eleven. Okay, there is resistance to the Spanish-owned businesses there, which are El Liemo, right? He's very profitable. Seven Brothers does well. The last time my store was open, Port Jeff Army Navy, The people that had the corner coffee shop next to the railroad tracks made a fatal mistake by not having anybody who spoke English behind the counter. If they did, they would get a lot of people looking for coffee and a bagel or something going on the train. There are other types of businesses than the retail. The second, how do I say it? When Uptown, Uptown is like a wave, right? 2 pharmacies in the 50s and 60s, Mr. Train across the street with the grocery store, Otto's Bakery and the butcher shop. It was all great. And then it kind of, the shopping center up on the highway opened up and everybody gravitated. And then another wave of businesses that did well was when all the antique stores opened up. And all of a sudden I started seeing people come in that I had never seen before because they were very interested in the antique stores. And then all of a sudden that died out. So we haven't hit the new wave, and I just keep on thinking Conifer has been there for an awful long time and has only gotten a tenant for the ground floor now.
Well, but we can argue about why that is, perhaps.
Well, I got to,
Because
and I think that
they created a space that was doomed to fail from the beginning. So
why?
listen,
Because it
so
was empty?
Are you saying that you disagree that we should have first floor?
No, I'm saying that the code needs to be revamped. All right? If
To not have
the reason
public space
why,
on the
now
floor.
I
I'm
was
not
on
gonna
that.
say retail
okay.
anymore. Public
The
space.
reason why I was on that committee too. And my takeaway on there has to be retail on the bottom floor is because at the time it was thought, well, we don't want all apartment buildings like Patchogue on the main drag. They wanted to see retail. I think that it needs to be revamped because retail is a dinosaur. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. And there has to be a better way. I would love to see some of the stores we had in the past when, who said grocery store? That was terrific. Okay.
But so, do you want to preclude, so which way are you going? Are you?
I'm torn.
Okay.
I'm torn because I spent a lifetime on that street.
Mhm. But I'm hearing waves.
Waves,
And
right?
And I think that if we allow projects to
Mhm.
come in where it completely precludes first floor spaces being used as some, I don't want to say retail.
Businesses.
a business, thank you.
Would be substantially,
Right.
not completely.
Okay.
The code, the comprehensive plan calls it active uses on the ground floor. So active
Right,
space that
active
people
space.
could, could
So-
use and implement.
Because I would rather see what they're proposing on the first floor than having an empty space.
Right.
Also,
But we
on-
only have 9% vacancy in C1. I don't think it will be empty.
And they have a lot
If
more
it-
parking downtown, a lot more parking.
Mhm.
Right now, you have hidden parking.
And remember that there's also going to be that huge development that's going on the other side of the railroad tracks. That's all going to be residential.
No,
Multi-use.
There's businesses.
There's
gonna be
businesses on the
businesses
first, guess what? On the
floor.
first floor.
Yeah.
But a whole nother group of people. So
I'm
I
sorry.
really feel that we need to, as a board, come to, not tonight, but we need to decide where we're going and whether we need to
Yeah, and we'll take
have.
a look, I'll take a look at the code. We can converse. I mean, I always get late, there's other applications we can do, right? So,
But
we really discussed this too.
I don't think it was well-written. And I
Mhm.
don't think it took
It's funny though,
into-
it literally, C1 and C2, it's almost copy paste. So
But
I know
C-
what C1 is, we don't
yeah,
allow.
But C1 was never meant to reflect what C2 was doing.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right, but in C1, we don't have accessory uses on the first floor. We allowed it once, unfortunately. So,
If the market demands retail.
well,
then
this
3
would be
years from now,
irreversible because their game room and lounge.
we charge.
I have something to say. I understand all about we're missing a piece here. We're saying we added more retail, but this is a must. This is a must. We need to have the lounge on the first floor. What? All right, you good? Everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
You all good? Okay. We're talking about retail, but we're not talking about the other needs we need on that floor. For us to rent the spaces the way we do today, and we're very successful at it, there's a wow factor. People want to walk in and see a lounge. They want to see a fitness room. They want to see a game room. Yes, at One North, we were successful in putting the fitness room and the game room in the basement. The lounge can't be in the basement. And it needs to be a big lounge, and it's a lounge like Rob said, where people sit there and they do work there, they use their iPads there, they have events there, we have events there. So although I hear you about retail, we need a certain amount of that first floor space for these other amenities that we have to offer to people.
The code allows for 30% of the first floor to be accessory. 30%, how much is the first floor, square footage wise?
Yeah, no, I think that the reading of that code needs to be looked at.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's asking you how much is being used for retail, how much is being used for the lounge.
About 40% retail,
What's the square footage of the first floor?
50, it's around 5,600 roughly.
5,600, so 30% would be 1,500 square feet. How much do you need for your lobby?
We have 2,000 proposed retail.
well,
And that's
No, no.
not just the lobby, that includes a lounge and a lobby. We need an area for a mailroom, we need a room
But
for
that could be,
packages.
that could be on another floor.
No, it
in the
can't.
back.
Good. Your parking is in the back. Why couldn't it be on another floor?
Do you know the problem we have with UPS and FedEx right now? We have these Luxa systems that they just throw the boxes when they're supposed to be putting them into boxes. We now at One North tried something different and put a room in. They're not going to take the elevator and go to another floor to deliver packages.
Just park in the back.
And do what?
What's,
They're not going to do it.
they're not gonna they're not gonna pull into the back?
They're going to throw the boxes. It's not going to happen. You know, we manage these properties day to day. We know what we're dealing with. What you're suggesting is never going to happen. Not in a million years. It has to be on the first floor. Just has to be. So I understand what she's saying about the retail. I respect that.
Isn't the rear entrance at a first floor, ground level?
Well, how is that laid out, Eric?
The rear entrance there's a entrance in the back that's at the level.
Ground level?
Yeah.
So why can't there be a mail room and a package area there?
That's the way you have it laid out, though, right?
In this case, that is in the back portion. It's a skinny, relatively skinny building. So we're just, yeah. It's, I think the battery.
We have to do, zoning compliance. That's what I was trying to jump
So-
on. That's why I keep trying to like.
I think you need to re-rate the
Yeah, I
section of
just
that
wanna-
code doesn't really apply. That 30% is
So-
being misread.
Yeah, I don't. Sorry, I don't mean to jump in. I just.
Jump in on the code, is it?
That's what I'm trying to do. I know. Again, I completely understand, and I'm not at all trying to, impede here, and I apologize. One thing, dude, and I just really quick thing. I do want to mention that as us as staff, we're working with the administration. We're currently working on tools and research to kind of fill those gaps of questions about retail, about active uses, what works, what doesn't. We have a stakeholder survey that's going to be hopefully going out very soon to talk to local business owners, talk to large stakeholders in the area. We talk to village residents to try to understand what their needs are, what the desire is, how they vision, the different portions of the town, hopefully to help supplement some of that data we have with the vacancies, with the market rate. We're also working on the villages implementing potential marketing strategies with the Economic Opportunity Task Force that's supposed to help with some of this discussion. I know it's a little broad what I'm talking about. I know it's not necessarily directly about this, but I just want to say that it is something that we're trying to find basis for you to help better support so you can, so we can all have a better understanding as a village. You know, what's the current state of retail? What's the current state of status of other uses that are potentially possible? And how does the code reflect in whether or not we need changes in the code, right? To address how, you know, make it more reflective of the desires.
Desires and the current economy and
Exactly.
the way
And I think
the
that-
world is working today.
Exactly. So we're,
Just like we were talking about the packages. We didn't have Amazon years ago. We didn't have a problem with packages. Now we have a problem.
So this is where I stand.
Yeah.
My understanding of the code and the way that I would apply it is that accessory uses, which you say you absolutely 100% need, are supposed to be fully concealed. That's very clear in the code. And equal in area to no more than 30% of the square footage devoted to retail sales. I read that as you can have what you want. You can have what you need as long as it's one fully concealed, so it's not on the main street. It has to be concealed from the public. And it's to be no more than 30% of what you're devoting to. And I don't want to say retail sales. I'm going to say permitted uses.
Yeah, permitted
business.
uses in the
Yeah,
village.
that's what it says. So if we agree on that, then it sounds to me that either they go for reinterpretation of the code or they go for a variance.
And with that, I
make
would
a
like
change.
to leave this presentation at a point where we just conclude this public hearing, because my concern here is you have a zoning code that's in effect. And I'm not of a mind, nor have I ever been, to try and find a way to go to the courts to try and figure out how your code is supposed to be defined. And I appreciate two members of your board who may have served on the committee, but we have members of the applicant that served on the committee. And I'm not waving a sword and saying litigation is the way, but what I am saying is caution. And I think that perhaps the board needs to speak to their counsel and figure out a way to best to navigate this, because you have one application in front of you with another one coming behind me, and you need to very cautiously find a way to figure out how to address a code that you may have one sentiment on and may vote accordingly, which if we don't like your decision, well, we have the right to do an Article 78. And then the court will define your code, not the board, not the Board of Trustees. So the point that I'm making right now is I appreciate both of your sentiments, but your code is silent in defining it in the way that you're talking about a public use. It's talking about accessory uses in my interpretation. So my point is, at this point, I think you need to look at our application. I started this presentation saying we had no variances. Nobody has disagreed with the conditional use special permit. Nobody has disagreed with any other variances as to parking. Nobody has disagreed.
We haven't
looked
reviewed.
at it.
Well,
That's-
yes,
that was my
we've
next
been
point I was
focusing
gonna
on
bring out.
something that
Yeah.
is very problematic, and I think you need to speak with your counsel to figure out how and where you want to go. To say carte blanche, we're going to the zoning board, or we're going to give it to the Board of Trustees to legislate again, I'd be cautious about that. So that's my view. I'm speaking on behalf of the applicant. So I understand, and I've heard your comments. So May's been come and gone, and now November's come and gone. So I guess we all need to sort of figure out where and how and what we want to be and how to handle this application. We have our reasons for presenting it the way we did, and it's both also to upgrade the property, provide an economic incentive for the applicant to want to continue with this particular application, to clean up a blighted area that you are very much in need of having cleaned up, in order for downtown to start looking, or uptown to start looking like downtown. So you as the chairman and your board have to decide what you want to do at this point, because we'll just be argumentative for another hour and still not come to terms.
You're probably right.
Yes.
So, on that note,
I thank
we
you
should
for your
end the
time.
discussion.
Yeah. I was just saying, I don't know how the board feels about procedural stuff, if they want to advance anything at this point. No, I would say there's secret, there's always ARC, there's any of that stuff. Obviously, I don't want to overstep. I know it's a big thing. I just wanted to put it,
hard
I figured, yeah, I just,
Can I ask one other question?
yeah.
To my knowledge, this hasn't gone to the Suffolk County Planning Department or the Planning Commission for any kind of recommendation or acknowledgement on the application.
Not yet.
And it needs to go there before they can even decide something.
Yeah, for secret, we would have to coordinate with them, Suffolk
Mm-hmm.
County Planning Commission.
So can we at least agree that it can go to the Suffolk County Planning Commission for their input at the moment? So that then when we hear from them, and if you've talked to council, we'll have a better way to acknowledge what we need to design, redefine, so that we're not sitting here waiting for something. I would appreciate on behalf of the applicant that you send it to Suffolk County Planning Commission or
But
Planning
that's part of
Department.
secret, which we haven't even.
Well,
No,
you can do a
it's
separate
not part
referral.
of secret.
It would happen during secret for,
239 referral, Eric?
239F.
oh, you mean the 439?
Yeah, you,
Okay.
you need to
Can
have
you
that out of
No,
the
I
way.
understand. Yeah, I'm not at all,
It's-
I'm not at all.
Provision in general municipal law that if it's within a certain distance of a.
But you're
state
seeking
highway
just
or-
general comments
So,
first.
yeah, I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's fine.
I think you can do general comments.
And the
yeah.
same would be the
Send it over
case with New York State DOT. That, because you're gonna need those in order to
Yeah,
move forward with this
that's
application.
fine. DOT is not gonna have any comment.
But you still need to send it.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
hasn't
yeah.
been
Oh,
sent
yeah.
to any of those.
I wouldn't wanna speak for DOT.
What? I'm not asking you to speak for DOT. You're
No,
the chairman.
no,
here.
we would have to do that, yes.
So that
So
would be
that,
my
that could be done,
request.
sure.
Any necessary municipal referrals be at least moved forward so that when you all decide, or there is a determination as to the application, we're able to move forward and not have to say, oh, now we have to send it out and then we'll come back. I would prefer that, if that's an agreement that we can reach tonight.
I think that's fine, if we can do that
I think
separately.
it's reasonable.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Suffolk County Planning Commission, do you
And
want to?
DOT.
And DOT?
Mhm.
And no local ones?
Well,
That would be like ARC, that's committees.
We can,
Not yet. Okay, that's fine. I just want to clarify, that's all.
Of a conceptual agreement
And
here.
you have DPW, DOT, and you would also have Suffolk County Planning, because the others that I referenced earlier, your approval, Health Department will be routine, because Health Department, once you decide what we are, we're gonna just make our application.
Right.
And the Water Authority doesn't come back with any comments, it's a hookup. So it would be, and LIPA National Grid, so
No,
if you're.
it won't be National Grid. They're
no,
no
but I'm just-
longer allowing gas as of January 1.
Yeah.
That's that. I'm building a bank right now in Glen Cove.
They just tabled. So,
For now.
I don't, I,
Just a few minutes ago, Tony, that's why.
what,
you just seem.
what about sending
The
it to
memo
ARC?
came from the back of the-
No,
So if that, if,
I don't think we're validating, I mean, there's nothing really gonna change in the building, except that, except that little portion where it may change, for the most part, they're looking at color schemes, materials, everything else.
Well, no, it could change. I mean,
Yeah.
the code calls for any accessory areas to be fully enclosed, and that plan shows it
it's open.
completely open, so.
Right, but it gets them talking, I mean, it gets something moving. I don't think we necessarily have to draw the line right now. I just think it should at least give them time to look at it. We got another month, we're gonna be back here.
I think that's fair.
I don't.
Yeah, elevations aren't gonna change that.
Right.
Why not start with these?
Right, they're gonna look at,
They
they're
have
gonna say,
questions, they
like,
come back.
when he did Conifer, and they came up with the idea of splitting the baby and that with the facade. And there were some really good, ideas that they came up with, and give them time to look at it, rather than just going, hey, look what we got.
Yeah.
We need it now, it just, it can't hurt.
They're fast.
I would
They're
respectfully
Yeah, they're
appreciate
fast,
that.
but I just don't think it's,
Okay.
They're meeting twice between now and the next meeting. I think November 18th and the 25th is the next ARC meetings.
right.
So let's let them know it's coming down the pike. Okay. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Sure.
So referrals are acceptable. Referrals are acceptable.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay,
I have nothing further, and thank you for your time.
okay. All right.
I have a question for you. So in C1,
Yes.
on Main Street, and even on East Main, so basically the the C2 is
We-
pasted and copied from C1.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah, but we
Overlook,
did,
which
it's
is
not allowed to have an accessory use on the first floor in C1 unless it's, I'm just,
Oh, you mean enclosed, the same kind of, yeah.
so.
All right, so we've got the overlook next.
Yeah, next is the overlook.
Eric,
I'm not
question,
moving, I'm
question
saying-
for you. That lounge area, or the
Detail thing, which we won't even,
Go
we'll
there.
just, I will just
Yes.
mention that we did increase it by 1,380 square feet.
Can you go back to
Where
the
we-
first floor?
Yeah, the first.
So just a note, haven't seen these, never got them.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. Where is this?
It's
It's across the
across from
street.
the old Lobster House. It's across from there. It's the corner of North Country and
Yeah,
112.
So we had submitted, you know.
Can you show the area
weeks
real quick,
ago,
so they
I believe
understand where they?
in
yeah,
October.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah, this includes the whole corner and then the church that's right
Isn't
behind
that
it.
Mr. Gito also?
Yes.
This is one of the apartments.
Yes.
It's,
This is the
it's
split.
along the whole corner up through what was the, auto supply store.
Mhm.
And then there's an easement across, well, a walkway across Walnut Street to the church that's going to be utilized for parking. So it's
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we are taking away 8 underutilized buildings, and our project, we had submitted a complete, full civil and architectural plan. So we have a complete application that has been submitted. It is in compliance, well, it's in the spirit of the, in the spirit of the comprehensive plan, as well as the zoning code requirements. We had submitted a narrative, which essentially was taken from the EAF, which describes the nuts and bolts and details of the plan. So I won't go too badly into detail on that to help kind of speed things along. Essentially, an 82,000 square foot building on an acre and a half. The parking, the majority of the parking is on the space where the church currently occupies. We are proposing 74 apartments. 93 parking spaces are required, 86 are provided. We would be requesting 7 spaces via the payment in lieu of parking arrangement. There'll be extensive landscape. We have the site plan that's also a part of it. We are proposing a takeout restaurant with this one also. The one issue, so the parking is there on the east side is the parking lot, and the takeout restaurant would be on the corner of North Country Road and Main Street, and the entrance to the apartments going up towards the south side of the building. And we are, I have a rendering also as part of it, along with the full elevations of the project. And all the details of the building elevations comply with the comprehensive plan and the zoning requirements is regarding facade modulations, setback of entries, the 60% of first floor fenestration on the building. I don't know if that rendering item was available.
Yeah, it's a separate digital, it should be a separate file.
And again, okay.
Did you have a chance to look at these?
Hmm?
When did these get submitted?
We got them officially Well, we looked at them preliminary.
October 16th.
Yeah.
And then,
I did this one thoroughly.
Okay.
The first one was Andy's original project, so I didn't have as much
Right.
input on the first one. But this one I was taking care of for a while, so.
And the unit sizes are.
Yeah, there's a
complex.
minimum of 400 square feet per unit size, and they're above it. They're about,
Okay.
I think, 5 or or this one's a
so
little bigger.
there's
This one's-
66
yeah,
one-bedroom
this one's bigger.
apartments. There are 640 square feet to 940 square feet. There are 8 two-bedroom apartments, 950 to 1,160 square feet. And
How
it's
many-
a fully
how many-
masonry building.
How many parking stalls?
There
did you-
are 86 parking spaces provided. And we're requesting 7 via the pilot, but we also are trading off with the mixed use. There'll be people using the apartment spaces at night, and then there'll be freer spaces during the day for our 3,200 square feet of commercial space in the building.
Can you show where that commercial space is?
Okay, I can show you on that rendering too. So right.
I'll go back to the.
Okay, well, either way.
Just
that
the
works.
yellow, right?
That works. So on the left-hand side, that first entrance where the lights are and the recessed entry, that would be the takeout.
Why take out? Why not sit down?
Well, the sit-down requires a
Parking.
completely different, concept with that. And
So how many square feet is that?
it would be takeout 16-seat maximum, so it's about 1,800 square feet.
All right.
And then the second commercial space is the middle space, and you see we also have on top of the roof some pergola trellises that help soften the look of it. And then we move the entrance for the apartments up further to the south. And again, we have a amenity space to the right of that as a necessary part of having the building, and without delving into that discussion again. But the require conditional use application for the takeout restaurant. In the backside of the building are 9 apartments that are on the lower level, and that we're looking for conditional use.
What's on the southern first floor? Where that,
There we go, back again. So, right, so where the blue starts, the blue is the common area space. So you come in on a vestibule, and there's a large lobby, and to the right of that is the lounge. So that's part of the lounge. So in this case, on this particular building, the amenity space of the building is very small in relation to the actual frontage on the main street here in this particular case.
Yeah. You flipped the colors though, so I was thinking it was the opposite. Because on the last application, the pink was anyway.
I don't believe so, but okay. I'll switch it back if we switch it up. I don't think so.
This is much closer to what.
Okay, good. So we've got some progress on that. And so the 9, we have some lower level space, because obviously then towards the back and what's adjoining Walnut is not conducive to commercial space.
Makes sense for the apartments, of course.
Walnut is the street on the right there?
That kind of unused street
Okay.
that's behind it.
Didn't
the
even know.
church,
There's some houses on it.
Yeah.
Walnut
Right behind it.
Yeah.
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 got it.
Wide road.
Can you remind me what's on the right-hand side?
Yeah, what's on
What
the
is
south
next
side?
building?
Terrace, right.
Okay, and is there a,
Like an alley. By me.
I guess if we can jump you back to the site plan, I guess next time I can bring, my iPad and I can switch back and forth without driving him crazy, but, right, so.
okay.
So does that mean 1515 Main Street would be gone, the dome building?
Yes.
That's.
Correct.
Okay.
So we feel it's an as-of-right project, that we need the conditional uses for the takeout restaurant as well as the 9 multiple dwelling units on the first floor. So there's a provision that it can't be on Main Street. And none of the apartments actually front on Main Street. There's no windows from the apartments on Main Street. So there are a few topics to discuss as far as conditional use for that requirement, and one of them, yes, go ahead.
to where the first floor apartments are on the site?
Speaking to the
I'm sorry.
The southerly. So there's a first floor apartment starts here and it goes back.
Okay, thank you.
allowed to have storage on Main Street?
Well, it's kind of like an accessory. It's a similar type
Okay,
of
so it's the
accessory.
same idea. Okay.
Exact. It's the
Sorry.
previous.
And also that little storage area, which is in front of those apartments, is 4 feet or so. The floor is 4 feet below Main Street because of the slope. So Main Street is sloping about 8 feet from one end to the other. And that's another challenge of designing these buildings on Main Street is the slope of the road, and we have to keep jogging floors. So another complication to putting these commercial spaces is always having to jog the floor level. So you can only, it's just complicated to get the floor level correctly depending on the space. So we would also look for support on the conditional use for those apartments. There are a couple of conditions which we don't feel are practical to make. One of them is a requirement for a 15-foot ceiling level, which is just basically kind of an impossibility. I would point out that conditional use zoning it mentions in the judgment of the planning board, and the planning board shall consider. So we don't feel that is a solid set in stone number. So there are no 15 feet is kind of ridiculous. That's very much big box kind of spaces. The CVS space we have downtown is 12-foot floor to the next floor. So otherwise, we feel that we can justify those spaces, those apartments on the lower level. And it is part of, it's in the C2 overlay. That back portion is in the C2 overlay, which does not prevent the use of these first floor units. So other than that, I feel, we're in a good position to keep moving forward with the project. And other than the discussions we were having before, and again, we'd like to continue the same distributing to the agencies so we can at least keep moving on those parts while we discuss the others.
Can you weigh in on the?
Yeah, that's where I wanted to jump in, was about the conditional use standards. So, yeah, you are right. The conditional use standards for multiple dwellings include provisions that it says basically it has to meet these to allow the future conversion to retail in the judgment of the planning board. Problem with the code is that it says factors to be considered by the planning board include but are not limited to the following, and meaning it includes the 4 standards that I outlined. And I discussed this with council originally, and just to make sure. So it does technically have to include those standards, and those 4 standards have the minimum 15-foot ceiling heights. They have adequate ventilation, mechanical equipment to allow future conversion, adequate parking for future retail, and ability to convert ground floor without disruption to the residential use above. So the one thing I just wanted to give for staff's input on this is that obviously you can see most of the apartments do front on Walnut. Walnut Street is kind of a mix in middle, caught in the middle, right? You got conifer developments on one side, you have single-family homes on the other side. It is technically at the moment more residential in nature. So I don't think staff was directly against the 15-foot ceiling heights for the variance for the 15-foot ceiling heights in this case scenario, given the basically because you would have to. Sorry.
Can you go to the view of the first floor with the apartments, and just so can you just show the apartments we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to should I go up there? Yeah.
Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah, I just want to make sure.
It's not really walnut.
It's technically, so it's anything that's on the ground floor.
All of that.
So all
the
of
whole-
these would fall under that standard. Based on the current code, how it reads.
And so those would easily be converted, we would not want to, but those would be convertible to, you say retail, but to a commercial use by, if you had to take out all the kitchens and whatever, they each have individual mechanical systems. We could have individual offices, we could have individual hair cutters, that kind of thing. And we could do it without disturbing the people above. So we would meet all those requirements. Some additional parking we could handle with a pay for parking situation again. 15 feet's the only unreasonable condition. And again, it's a planning board conditional use, and it seems to be judgment and consideration.
Do you agree with that?
What that it?
that we have flexibility on the 15-foot.
What's the code?
Oh, yeah,
code
it's,
number? I just want to read it.
250-19-7. No, is it, B7, I'm sorry, B, 250-19-B7. It's a specific, so it's a conditional uses for multiple dwellings in the C2 district. And again, it does say, like, so when we discussed it, because, unfortunately, because the way it says includes but not limited to the following, it seems that it has to include those 4 standards. Obviously, it's one word right in the code that kind of pushes us to that conclusion, but, we kind of let it out a little bit. And it's just like any other conditional use. So like for a restaurant, there's certain conditional uses, which there's times where the planning board has judgment, but it always has to include those. And when it doesn't meet those, we've always required it to get a variance from the village code. I think the board can consider other things on top of it, right? It allows leeway for other things and more of a vaguer understanding of what else could be considered. But I just, unfortunately, the way it reads is it has to include those 4.
And so we're discussing this because it's the first floor.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And that would
I'm
blow out.
confused how you're having a discussion about this, but not.
But I'm sorry, I lost you.
So you recognize that the first floor, these are the conditional uses.
They have to meet those conditions.
Yeah.
Well, in the judgment of the planning board to consider,
Does
and
it
again, it does blow, it would not,
But it
you
says
couldn't have a
minimum but not
3-story building, the 15 feet is excessive. So it automatically blows you out of the water for any type of thing. Yeah, and so it is also, the master plan references that the C2 overlay district, you can have multiple dwellings on the first floor, but that's not in the code. So the only code language for the overlay district is in the chart that they give you. And so it doesn't follow through on that discussion anywhere.
The other sort of anomaly here is that at least the southern line of apartments fronts on an alley. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, so I have a 10.
I mean, it's not practical for retail stores, nor is.
There is a 10-foot setback for that.
So this condition of having the ability to convert back to retail in the future applies to not just Main Street, but everything.
It's anywhere.
Anywhere.
Because technically you can't have apartments fronting Main Street or North Country Road. The reason, so I will bring that up for this, because there is precedent
You
that.
can't have apartments fronting on Main Street.
Or North Country Road at all.
Period.
Period. And that's for the district. But I will say, just super quick, on the first floor only, sorry, on the first floor. I will say that because the way it is currently, as like you have the storage and you have the lounge up front there, in front of the apartments, that's been allowed before. Like One North, for example, has apartments behind, if I'm not mistaken, behind the retail space up front. So that and it still fronts North Country and Main. So that's been allowed before.
Yes.
So that's why we didn't say it wasn't prohibited, is what we said. Based on the precedent.
Do those apartments have 15-foot?
Well, they don't meet that's the thing. I don't think right now they meet the conditional use standards. So our interpretation was that it required a variance from the zoning board in order to permit that. The one thing is, I will say there is also other variances required for the project. It has side yard setback variances. On the one side, it's I think it's a 5-foot setbacks provided, and that's another iffy.
We've kind of been down that road also.
Yeah, it's
and
another.
We've established precedent where that wasn't applicable, and there are many ways to, avoid that conversation, which I can jump into it now if you want, or we'll move on to that another time.
Okay.
So the code dimensions a 0-foot side yard or 8 feet if one is provided, which is I haven't heard of anything described like that before. And when we did the Brookport downtown, we were able to, we have a 3-foot side yard there, and that wasn't an issue. And we, through discussions, I believe it was Jennifer at the time, and we established an opinion that that wasn't an issue. And also the definition of side yard is very broad, and even the definition of building, I'm sorry, is very broad. So even a fence is considered a building, and an awning is considered a building. So it'd be very easy for us to make that a 0-foot side yard, if necessary. So we don't feel that was an issue. It wasn't an issue on a past project, and we would argue that it shouldn't be an issue for this one. But otherwise, this is another great project to move forward with the village here in Upper Port, and it's getting these projects established and getting feet on the street and eyes on the street, and that's what makes it. That's what's going to make the uptown pop. So we have to get over some of these hurdles, but I think ultimately it's a great project.
I think it's kind of underground.
Any questions? Any?
Need a lot of time, but
Yeah, I would say I don't know how the board feels, because like,
I
we
hadn't
could go
even
through
seen
procedure.
these
Yeah.
until now.
Yeah. Because we did review secret, we did, like, but again, I know it's discussion's still ongoing, but if the board does want to proceed with certain areas, there are avenues, there's areas I think we can proceed with, but it's, again, ultimately up to the board's decision.
Well, we can get the referrals done, right?
Yeah, the referrals, we did review the part one, and for secret, and we did think it was prepared acceptably, but that's if the board wants to do the whole lead agency and the coordination. I don't know if you're at that point at the moment. Yeah, no, that's, I just,
I mean,
it depends, it's up to the board. But we did review the full FEAF. We thought it was acceptable format for at least a coordinator review. And then obviously there's other comments on parking and other things we could, but I won't, yeah, oh, and SWIP, yes. Yeah.
And what?
The SWIP. This would require a SWIP because it's over an acre of disturbance.
So there's two separate lots. They're each 3/4 of an acre. Whether or not you combine them and make it a SWIP,
Well,
I think they're separate.
They're combined too for FAR, so that also helps the project. So.
They are separated by road.
They are.
Yeah, but it's the amount of disturbance in the project.
It's the project scope. It's the. Well,
I mean, you could get an opinion from the
Yeah,
DEC.
I don't think that's our critical path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. Yeah, no. All right.
So I'm just gonna.
Okay, so.
Just gonna be devil's advocate here. Do you disagree with the board going for lead agency at this time on the secret?
No.
Again, I'm trying to
No.
just trying to keep things moving.
No.
you know?
We should be lead agency.
I think
Why wouldn't
Yeah.
we?
Right.
Yeah.
Guess I'm just still stuck. It's fine. I'm still thinking about the apartments in the first floor and what our requirements are and what the code says. So
That's the only little
mean,
sticky thing that I'm.
yeah.
I'm hopeful that we can work through that because it really I don't think makes a lot of sense in that particular location to think that it could ever really be retail.
Right.
Right. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we have to, then they might need to go for a variance.
I don't know how it
Is
can
what
be
I'm
handled.
saying.
Yeah, that's how we interpret it. I will say, like, the board could always recommend, like, at least write a letter during that referral to the zoning board if they feel that the variances aren't big or if they want to make a recommendation towards it, they can. The one things I guess I could add to that is that Walnut in the comprehensive plan is only really described as a service road to service Main Street. It's not so much talked about uses or talks so much about its participation in it. So I don't know if that adds, but
But
it's
I think it just means ground floor.
It does mean
right?
ground
so
floor.
it doesn't
So the
matter that
apartments
there's
above-
Walnut or there's,
No,
where
I know,
they are.
I just meant like for the future conversion argument, I
Yeah.
guess.
Like,
It's another little code problem, but you
well,
know.
I don't think it is. I think they just have to go for a variance.
No, I'm saying to, insist on possible future conversion to retail.
For
and
all ground floor.
For all ground floor when a space is, faces an alley or a parking lot, it's never gonna happen.
Right.
That's my point.
Yeah.
So then all the other conditions would be the same. The 15-foot would be the same fait accompli, I guess, is not necessary. In the judgment, humbly in judgment, consideration of your judgment.
Correct.
But I don't know if we have the latitude, though.
Right.
Eric.
No,
I-
Just
don't.
know
It's-
Specific to that 15 feet.
Yeah.
You know, you might be better off at this point putting that together with the other variances needed and just
Go get
I mean,
it.
if you have
Yeah.
to go,
Yeah.
to go 1, 2, 3 things. it's supposed
Yeah.
to-
And
Yeah.
hypothetically,
Right.
You'd
the,
rather not go, but if you
I hear you.
have to go.
Yeah.
right, and hypothetically, the
Right.
accessory uses on the first floor.
So your
So-
point was to maybe assume lead agency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that, right?
And if planning thinks they make sense and the zoning board's aware of that,
Right.
typically it's
Mhm.
a major problem.
You're gonna be lead agent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of a slam dunk.
So I might as well assume that now, no?
Sure.
Okay, can I get a motion to assume, for
Well,
the planning board to
they have to
assume lead
do a-
agency?
Wait, you guys have to do a coordinator review. It's a type 1 action for
Yeah.
secra. So
Yeah.
you have to declare an intent to assume lead agency, but you
Oh,
would have to issue
okay.
the coordinator review is what the discussion is tonight. So that's where we'll do the referral to all the other interested involved agencies. And it's a 30-day period typically, so by the next meeting, you should have comments
Okay.
back by that
Mm.
point. Or any
Maybe.
objections, or theoretically.
So we're going to,
I guess pursue the coordinated, I guess your intent, declare the intent to assume lead agency, intent to assume lead agency and
okay.
issue I can't speak.
And-
Do the
and-
coordinated review of the application is the
Okay.
next.
All right.
Yeah.
all right, what he said.
Yeah. It's a lot of stuttering. You got it? Yeah. She translates me.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
All right.
Thank you
All right,
for
we
your
did
time.
something.
Thank you.
Good
to see you, Michael.
You too, man.
All right.
Laura,
Oh, I
nice
know.
to
All right.
meet
Take
you.
care.
Yeah, so,
They're different
like,
parking
Michael
sponsors, so.
how do we,
I gave you, that was what I was. Sorry?
I motion to adjourn, he seconds.
They closed it. And now they want to open the door.
Okay.
So they have to read it.
Gil?
It's fine.
I seconded it.
Should I come look? Okay, all right, give me the looks then, because I was told they were taking the wall.
Yeah, someone put like a
Okay.
rumor in.
Yeah, Kevin told me.
Okay, I did.
Kevin told me.
You got a birthday boy tonight.
Oh, yeah, all right, I'll run by tomorrow. And Jen's got your phone. I'll circle
Yeah,
back
I do,
with you,
yeah.
you know?
That building.
Get the shape back. This new building.
Yeah. So, they wanted to, so what happened?
Grandfather.
The nail salon.
Yeah.
Now it's the hair salon.
Okay.
They wanted to do an express
Okay.
over hair.
Right, right. All right, let me, just let them spray me in the morning. And look at what they're doing. And perfect. And then maybe we can get you moving again.
Appreciate it. Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
Of course, good seeing you, all right?